Good evening. It is March 21st, 2016. And this is Global Skywatch Radio. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to talk about the largest crime against humanity in human history. We do this because one day everybody will know about this. One day this will be recognized as the largest issue in human history. And so we're talking about this now because it needs to be spoken about. It needs to be revealed. We're going to get right into news. We're going to move quick and try to get as much information and news in as possible. And because I'm multitasking, we're going to try to make this work as smoothly as possible, but please bear with me. First, I want to talk about the famous Michio Kaku. Let me bring this up on the screen. All right, you can find this article. Let me show you where you can find this, by the way. Go to Global Skywatch website, globalskywatch.com. And let me backtrack for just a second. First of all, if you'd like to go and if you'd like to call in and be with us tonight, speak up on the phone, share your thoughts and ideas, or ask questions, go to Global Skywatch Radio at the globalskywatch.com website. Then click here in the top left corner of the website, right here where it says Global Skywatch Radio, and you will come to the page that has the phone numbers and all the information that you need, and the archive and everything else that goes along with it. Call-in numbers are right here. Just click this link here, and you can get call-in numbers for many different countries. There's a whole list of countries there you can get phone numbers for. The U.S. number is right here, so please feel free to call in now to get ready to ask your questions or to make your statements on the live on the air. The phone number is 605-562-3140. That's 605-562-3140, and you'll need the access code 156230. So this is the Global Skywatch console that you can call into. If you have any problems, please join us on live stream, on our live stream channel. You can find our live stream channel by going to globalskywatch.com/live and click on the link in the left sidebar that says Watch Live Stream Now. All right, tonight we're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to take a story from the Chemtrail newsfeed. So go to globalskywatch.com, click on the Chemtrail newsfeed link right here, and that will bring you to the Global Skywatch newsfeed. The first thing I want to cover tonight is most people have heard about Michio Kaku. We're going to talk about disinformation. This is one thing I really like to talk about a lot because people are deceived. We are in an age of deception that is rivaled by no other time in history. Let me make this a little wider so we can see all the text here. No other time in history even comes close to what we're experiencing right now with the level of lies and deception that we have in the world today. And so I like to talk about disinformation, help people understand what's going on. I have a new article we posted today on the Global Skywatch Chemtrail news feed. Weather-controlled disinformation someday will control the weather. This is a video. Michio Kaku was recently on mainstream. This is a CBS video we have here that you can check out if you want to. Michio Kaku. Who is Michio Kaku? Most of you have seen him. Let me see if I can get a picture of him here. I don't have audio piped in yet to the stream. There he is. He is the new Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan was the spokesman for science for many, many years until he passed away a few years ago. And Michio Kaku has taken his place as the quote-unquote spokesperson for science globally. And so he kind of represents what's going on in the world today in terms of science. He's the front man. He's the spokesperson. Well, he got on this CBS show, and he's done some mainstream news clips, talking about controlling the weather, how it might be possible in the future. I want to read this article to you really quickly. It says, when someone tells you we're currently working on it, you clearly imply we can't do it now. When the government or a large corporation wants to quash any public suspicion of the evidence of an advanced technology, they simply tell the public quote, "We're working on it." This technique has been used for years to quash public suspicions about ongoing chemtrail spraying. The government has gone to great lengths to hide the truth. They have published papers, held conferences, produced educational materials, and provided falsified studies about the potential future of sprayed aerosols into the sky to combat climate change. Because the ongoing spraying is the most damaging human activity ever executed, the disinformation campaign also has to be the largest ever executed. And this is the reason you see so much buzz about the future of aerosol spraying. In the video below, Michio Kaku, the new public spokesperson for science, who replaced Carl Sagan after his death, and disinforms the public by saying one day we'll be able to control the weather. Take note how Michio emphasizes the statements "in the lab" and "nothing conclusive yet" to further impress the lie that weather control is not yet implemented. Michio knows exactly what he's doing. This is not a deceived person, in my opinion, at all. Michio Kaku is probably a member of the mystery school's religion. That is the religion of the elites, of the global elites. He's been hired in this position to be the spokesperson to disinform the public. He knows, I believe, that he is disinforming the public. He's doing it knowingly and willingly. And this is the technique that's being used to convince people that spraying, that weather control, rather, is not taking place today. As they emphasize the idea that sometime in the future they're going to do this. This is the same thing they're doing with current chemtrail operations, is they're saying, we will conduct geoengineering in the future. We're going to have conferences. We're going to have college study conferences. We're going to have scientific conventions. We're going to write papers. We're going to do studies. And all the while, they're spraying us. And they're spraying us hard where I live. In fact, it is becoming life-threatening. It's becoming very, very serious to me personally. And this is why I do what I do. Whether there's 5 people listening to this stream or 5,000 people listening to this. I did do a video a few months ago that did get 40,000 listeners to the replay, which was very nice to have. Isn't always the case, but it's nice to have some larger number of people who are listening, who are becoming concerned about this, because, you know, there are on the order of about 40 to 50 protests every month on the subject of the chemtrail spraying that is currently going on all around the world, and mainstream media is completely ignoring it. And part of the reason is Michio Kaku here provides disinformation so that they talk about how this is going to happen in the future, how weather control will happen in the future, to make people think it's not happening now. The father of weaponized weather is another article that we have on the Global Sky Watch Chemtrail newsfeed, and this is about Ben Livingston, who is the person who was pioneering weather control, steering hurricanes, creating and preventing precipitation in the 60s. They had refined it in the 70s. They perfected it in the 80s. This is old technology. They have had this in mind for a long time. Kennedy even brought it up years and years ago, but they're trying to make the public believe that this is not yet implemented by telling them that we're working on it in the lab. We have nothing conclusive yet, but we're still working on it. That's the way deception works. All the while they're spraying us, killing us. I smell and taste this stuff in the air as real as anything. It is very, very strong and very, very intense for someone like me. So for those who do smell it and taste it, hundreds of them have contacted me, and it is very, very real and very, very debilitating to some of us who have hyperinflammatory reactions to it. And I am one of those people. My heart goes out to people who've already died from heart attacks, strokes, aneurysms, whose lives have been ruined by cancer, because this stuff embeds in your tissue, causes cancer. It suppresses your immune system, can cause infection, viral infections over time, and a whole host of diseases, and can kill you. And it almost killed me in 2011 when I had a heart attack from the barium, which depleted my potassium to very dangerous levels. And taking large doses of potassium now helps me tremendously when I feel that same pain I had for years before the heart attack hit me. I take a dose of potassium and magnesium, and within an hour I feel tremendously better. It's very consistent. And of course, again, as I say in all these broadcasts, this is not magic. This is not something that's hard to understand once you know what's going on. It's just chemistry and science. These things don't happen coincidentally. They happen because something is causing them. One more thing I want to talk about is there's another article, Owning the Weather in 2025, what it really means. This is also on the Global Skywatch Chemtrail newsfeed. Now, this is a document, I'm going to be real brief about this. This is a document published by a couple guys who did it for the U.S. military, and they were talking about the potential for controlling weather in 2025. What's really ironic is, like I said, it was developed in the 50s and 60s. It was perfected, refined in the 70s and perfected in the 80s. This technology is old. This thing was written after it was already perfected. So why would a document like this be written by the government and then released in the public domain when they're talking about it in the context? And please listen carefully to what I'm saying so you're not deceived. They're talking about it in the context of public. They're putting it into the public domain. Why would they put a document that talks about a so-called secret military weapon that could be developed, quote-unquote, could be developed? Why would they talk about that and then publish it, first of all, second of all, and then put it in the public domain and say that we're going to try to develop this in the future or maybe own the weather by 2025? Again, they're doing the exact same thing that Michio Kaku is doing, is they're doing it now. They have the technology developed now, but they're making the public think that it's not yet developed by publishing documents like this. You have to not use your emotions. This is where people become very deceived, is that they will try to publish such convincing information. There's a study that was published in 1999 and 2000 that talks about contrail formations in jet engines. And it is a lie. It is disinformation. These engines have been around for decades. So why is it that all of a sudden, when they is it just a wild coincidence that the year between 2000 and 2005, when they expanded the spraying program globally on such an incredibly large scale, that at the same time they would come out with a study talking about contrail formation? You have to understand that the most effective disinformation is disinformation that lets you come to the conclusion. In other words, this study about contrail formation is talking about the effect on the atmosphere. But what you conclude by reading it is that these really are contrails that you're seeing in the sky, even though that's not what the study is trying to convince you of. The study is just talking about the fact that these contrails are affecting other weather systems or other criteria. They don't say that we're trying to prove these are contrails. An indirect lie is the most effective lie, and that's exactly what so much published information. When Osama bin Laden was supposedly killed, I remember seeing the homepage of CNN, and they didn't just have this story saying bin Laden was killed. They had about 12 stories. We talked to the wives. We talked to the helicopter pilot. We talked to the people who were doing intelligence. We talked to so-and-so, and they had all of these so-called supporting stories. That makes it so convincing. And what this does is this affects you emotionally. It makes you feel that because there's so much information, there's so much overwhelming information, they couldn't make all this stuff up. They're not that smart. They're not that coordinated. They don't have that much power. They don't have that much money. They wouldn't lie like that. And the problem is that you don't realize that they would. They would lie. They would lie. And this study about contrails is a lie. Those of us who have watched the sky, who are not young anymore like myself, will tell you that I've never seen a trail come out of a high bypass turbofan engine. Not once, not ever. Not even at jet engines. I used to see F-15s flying, F-16s, F-18s. I don't remember exactly what they were, but they were a few different types that would fly out of MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, because I grew up in Newport Richey, Florida. And every 4 to 6 weeks, we'd see them fly overhead. They'd be doing exercise. They'd go right over us. And how many times did I see trails come out of those engines? If any engines were going to produce trails, it would be a jet engine, which the exhaust is complete jet fuel. Not a high bypass turbofan where 80% or 85% of the air coming out of the back is bypass air that's sucked in the front. Yet, even in those jet engines, we never saw trails. It is a lie, and it is part of convincing people that these are harmless. Anyway, so Michio Kaku, let's get back to Michio Kaku here, convincing the world that weather control is in the lab. He stresses those phrases, it's in the lab. We have nothing conclusive yet. And this is all neuro-linguistic programming. This is simple emphasis. Sometimes there's association used. And these people who do this know exactly what they're doing. I could go on in that, but one thing is once you start to understand neuro-linguistic programming, and I've studied it a little bit, I've learned enough about it so I can recognize when it's happening. And when you do that, you start seeing that this is used by politicians, it's used by presidents, it's used by newscasters, it is used all the time. And what you have to understand is these people are trained in this art. The writers are trained. This is not a coincidence. This is done on purpose. We are facing the largest crime against humanity in human history. I'm one of the people who smell it and taste it. I've hundreds of people contact me. I've had pilots contact me, thanking me for exposing the Contrail lie. Veterans who've called me, veteran pilots who've called me and said, I've been flying for 25 years. My wife has been a pilot. We've been commercial pilots. We've been doing this. We've been doing it as a hobby. We have our own plane. We've been in the air all the time, and we've never seen anything come out of a jet engine before. I've had pilots tell me that exact statement and thank me for what I'm doing because the lies are so great. And I was telling that it's hard to resist them. And I was telling you just a minute ago, where you get caught up is when your emotions get caught up in it. You see the size of the material. You see the wall of information they hit you with, 15 studies and 50 scientists and panels meeting around the world to talk about the future of geoengineering and hundreds of millions of dollars spent to put these programs together, to put these conferences together, and it just makes you feel like, wow, this is real. How could they fake all this? But you know, when they're conducting the largest crime against humanity in human history, they have all the money in the world, all of the technology in the world, and they're completely coordinated. Because with today's technology, it doesn't matter where in the world you are at any moment. You can completely coordinate your plans, your writing, your scripts, your broadcasts, and people have to realize that. That's why for years they've done this. When you watch the nightly news and you go from channel to channel, they have all the same stories. There is so much news, so much that could be covered in such varied ways. And yet, it doesn't matter which channel you're watching, you're going to get pretty much the same stuff. Maybe a slight, more recently in the last 15, 20 years, there's a little bit of a different angle because they had to, because their colors were showing. They had to get a little better at looking different from one another, but really, they're virtually the same. So, Michio Kaku, neurolinguistic programming, spreading the great lie that weather control is just in the lab and it has not been implemented yet. Absolutely untrue, absolutely contrary to first-hand whistleblower Ben Livingston, who was interviewed by Alex Jones and exposed how it was developed in the 50s and 60s and perfected in the 80s. All right, next story. I know I'm going to mix a lot of these stories up in information, but I'm just sharing with you things that I've learned. I've been researching government cover-ups and corruption for a long, long time. I put enough pieces together because that make me understand enough of the big picture that make it so there are no big surprises today. And I'm not saying that out of any act of conceit. I'm just grateful that I have been exposed to this information because I do want the truth. I am one of those people who wants the truth regardless of how it makes me feel. My emotions are irrelevant. The truth is the truth. It's not my job to make truth conform to me. It's my job to make myself conform to the truth. And that, to me, is a philosophy I adopted a long time ago because I understood that if you're not operating in the truth, you're operating completely inefficiently. You're operating in a lie. And you can't, it's much more difficult to accomplish anything useful if you're not operating in the realm of truth. All right, let's talk about this story on the Daily Mail. Heinrich Himmler's stash of books on witchcraft is discovered in Czech library after being hidden for 50 years. Bullet points. Amassed 13,000. He amassed, Hitler's right-hand guy here, amassed 13,000 volume library on the occult, had warped belief, mysticism was proof of Aryan racial superiority. Some books were part of the Norwegian Order of Freemasons library. This is all, I just want to cover this stuff to give you bits and pieces of the things that I put together. You know, Hitler himself was a mystery schools person. He was one of the he was part of the Brotherhood. He kissed the hand of the Vatican, of the Pope, worked underneath the direction of the Vatican when they exported Jews to the United States at the same time in a coordinated fashion, shut the gates to receiving Jews so that they could form Israel. And this was all done on purpose to form Israel. And these people are all into the occult. The Nazi symbol, most of you probably realize by now, is an occult symbol. And I know a lot of you think the occult is good. Other people think the occult is bad. It just means secret information. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Is it good? Is it bad? What is the point? What is the purpose? We'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's a lot of deception. We're living in an age of deception today that is unrivaled in human history. And so this is why I put this information out there and hope those precious souls who do hear it do gain something useful from it. So Himmler's stash of books on witchcraft and the occult. What's the big deal about this? Well, this is to be expected. Of course, this is going to happen because these people were all part of the mystery schools. They take their orders from spiritual writers, and I cannot emphasize this enough. I talked about this last week. Spiritual writers are the ones they take their orders from. The Bible tells us that the whole world is under the sway of the evil one. That is exactly what it says. It also says that we battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and spiritual entities in high places. What does that mean? That means exactly what we see today. And this is the one thing that has fascinated me about the Bible over and over as I learned geopolitics, as I learned about government corruption, and I studied government biblical prophecy. I saw that the things that were happening in the world today were being fulfilled exactly as the Bible had told them. And if you don't realize that yet, please don't take this lightly. There are things happening today that are so lined up, and this is not me trying to proselytize people. This is me being responsible and telling what I have seen, because I haven't come to believe this because I had the need. I came to believe this because I saw the evidence, and it was mind-blowing. So we don't expect any surprises here. We're going to see these people who are in high places in history to be into the occult. They're going to be into mysticism. They're going to be into the Freemason thing, which really is all the same, part of the same mystery schools. It's all under the same umbrella, the Rosicrucians. A lot of people are offended sometimes when I talk about Mormonism. I apologize right now. I see that the broadcast, the chat room on the broadcast has ended, so live stream once again has cut off the chat room. I think next week I'll install a chat room that we can use as an alternative to this chat room because this is obviously not working well, although the stream is still working as far as I know. It usually does continue to work even if the chat room goes down. So, of course, that's why we're going to find these books in the libraries of these world leaders. Why? Because they're all into the mysticism, the occult, the Freemason thing. It's the same, all part of the same belief system. There are different flavors, but the bottom line is it all comes down to the same thing. So that's why we're going to find things like this. All right, what is the big picture? What's happening in the world? I'd like to get right down to the bottom line. This is what I have discovered in my research. What is happening in the world is all of these things are coming together. Scripture tells us prophetically, excuse me, we've been sprayed so badly the last couple of weeks. It's been just devastating here in Maine. They're just killing us up here. Okay, so what the mystery schools are doing, what the big boys are doing, what the people atop the heap are doing is they are synthesizing the second return of Christ because they want to have their God to be in the position of the God, and that is the one that we all know as the Antichrist. This is the reason for Project Bluebeam. This is part of the reason for the 3D holographic technology that's been developed. You're going to see things in your lifetime that are going to be mind-boggling. In fact, there's more stuff written, more Bible prophecy written in the entire Scripture about the time you're living in right now than about the time that Christ actually walked the earth. And that may surprise some people, but it's absolutely true. And that's because we are about to face the pinnacle of history. We are on the edge of it right now. So they want to bring in the false Messiah. He's going to walk into the temple. He's going to declare himself to be God. There's going to be all kinds of things happen. There will be wars. There will be famine and pestilence. And all of this stuff is being brought upon us all right now to satisfy those prophetic prophecies. And that's being done through chemtrails partially. I talked about Revelation 18:23 last week. That actually talks about the dumbing down of the population of the entire globe that would be deceived because of the sorcery, which is the Greek word pharmakia, of the world leaders. And the world leaders are called the great merchants, which means the great manufacturers and wholesalers, the powerful manufacturers and wholesalers. That's exactly what we're seeing happen today. And I also talked last week about the Araba. We're going to get into that in a minute. That's the desert around the Dead Sea, which is being converted, which is one of the final prophecies that happened before the return of Christ. We are on the edge. And if you ever wanted to wake up, if you ever wanted to know truth, if you ever wanted to get your adrenaline flowing, now is the time to do it, because you're going to see things in your life that people have never seen before. Okay, so talking about the whole purpose of this, I'm going to bring up another web page here. Give me a second. Okay, on the live stream, I'm going to bring up this page. This is Childhood's End. I misquoted last week. I called it Childless. Arthur C. Clarke wrote this years ago, and it is now showing on the Sci-Fi Channel. It is about, what is this about? Spoiler alert. Excuse me for the coughing. Talked about this last week a little bit. This is a show. Arthur C. Clarke, you know his name. He's well known for a reason, because he's one of them. He's one of the mystery schools people. And he is one of the ones who are externalizing the hierarchy, as Helena Blavatsky said should be done, and Anne Besant, that should be done, is the hierarchy needs to be externalized. In other words, they're going to reveal what they're doing to you. They're going to preach their religion to you, and they're going to convince you it's true. The Bible says this is the lie. And the lie is that Lucifer is God. This is what they're trying to teach you. And they're doing it through a seduction that involves the five-pointed star, which stands for, when it's right side up, the divination of man. You are divine. This is the bill of goods that's being sold to you through the New World Order. You are divine. And you are evolving spiritually. And this is all part of the spiritual evolution. This is the seduction that's being sold to you so that they can bring the New World Order upon you, they can bring a one-world government upon you, and they can rule you with an iron fist. That's the point. Childhood's End is a story, spoiler alert, about how aliens came to the earth who have been watching over Earth, and they gave the people of the earth technology to solve the world's problems. They gave cures for cancer. They gave cures for energy and pollution. And they brought all of these wonderful cures to the earth. They were the saviors of the earth. That's what the story is about. The interesting thing is they would not show themselves to humans for a while. They held off because of how they looked. Now, if you understand what the mystery school's religion teaches at the core, now I know they have all kinds of fluff. If you listen to Manly P. Hall's teaching, it sounds beautiful and wonderful at the core, and of course it is. Just like prophecy says that Satan will not come to you looking like you think he looks. He will come to you as an angel of light. That's how he will look to you. He will be beautiful, glamorous, and perfect, and incredible, and it will draw you in. That's how this philosophy looks to you when Manly P. Hall teaches it. But in Childhood's End, when the aliens actually finally reveal themselves to mankind, This is what they look like. And the reason this is so significant is because this is exactly what the externalization of the hierarchy wants to do. They want to show you that Lucifer is the good guy, and Adonai, as they call him, God, Yahweh of the Bible, is the bad guy. So look at what the Savior in Arthur C Clarke's Childhood's End looks like. Let me scroll down. There he is, complete with horns, forked tail, red skin, the whole package. This is the alien. This is what they look like. And this is the Savior of the world. And how does he save the world? He saves the world through technology. Now, if you watch movies that were made in the last several years by famous movie makers like Anastasia, they depict the wonderful people who were so beneficent to mankind, who were the guardians of the great library. They were the guardians of knowledge. And then there were the scrappy, ugly, dirty Christians that wanted to burn down the great library. They were always against knowledge. And what's funny is really the opposite is true, is that this knowledge, when you understand the mystery schools and you understand Blavatsky, I mean, most of the stuff was channeled. Most of this information was channeled. And they would tell you this. Acharya, who's a famous New Age writer, and Besant, even Albert Pike, who created the rites of Masonry, Freemasonry, who is considered the father of modern Freemasonry, channeled these from their spiritual masters. This is what they will tell you. And because these spiritual masters are giving us this knowledge, we should take this and solve all the world's problems. The problem is that you have to, this is the linchpin that you have to realize, is that this information has been being given to the elites who are using it to enslave the world and implement a socialistic new world order where they have all the power and all the resources, and you will be stacked and boxed with a few hundred square feet apartments in cities, go do your job, and then be forced to die when you're 60 years old or no longer able to perform. If you learn about Agenda 21, you will see the beginnings of the implementation of this philosophy in plain sight. So don't think for a minute that this information that was given to these people by these spiritual masters who appear to them or who write through automatic writing for them, and they write these books just like Aleister Crowley did. Don't think that these spiritual masters are just making some grand mistake and giving this information to the wrong people. They're not giving it to the wrong people. They're giving it to the people they intend on giving it to. Because the way that God designed mankind is that we learn information. We have more revelation and information as we are able to morally handle it. That was the idea. That was the concept. And you can see this in the two people that were called beloved of God in the Bible, which were John and Daniel, who had the most startling and riveting revelations, writings. They were given more revelation and more knowledge than anyone else aside from Christ himself, of course. And that's the idea, is that those who are morally capable of handling the power that comes with knowledge were the ones who were given it. The problem we have today is that through the spiritual writers, through the mystery schools, through those who are channeling these entities, by their own words, I'm not making this up, this is from their own words, they are using this to enslave and destroy the world. So you have to ask them, you have to ask yourself, are these entities that they're talking about benevolent, or are they from the other side? Are they making a big mistake in giving it to the wrong people, or is that part of their plan? And in Anastasia, when they depict the Christians as the bad people and they depict those who were guarding the great library as the good people, they completely misrepresent the truth, which is what they always do. They always demonize and slander good. What is good is evil, and what is evil is good. There's nothing wrong with knowledge, but that knowledge has to be in the hands of people who are morally capable of using the power that comes by that knowledge properly and for the benefit of mankind. But that's not the world we live in today. We live in a world where those people have sold their souls. That's what the movie "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" is, from the Coen brothers. That movie is about the selling of the soul, the crossroads. Watch the movie carefully. It is the story about the musician who sold his soul at the crossroads, and they meet the devil, the old sheriff with an old dog that gets wiped out by the dam that breaks. I don't know if you remember this movie. That's the devil. And if you watch that movie, it's completely symbolic of the process of gaining knowledge, selling your soul for knowledge. And it's done in a comedic way. But once again, that movie is externalizing the hierarchy. They're teaching you without realizing you're being taught. They're doing it in Saturday morning cartoons. They're teaching your kids about asteroids. They're teaching your kids about UFOs and aliens and the divination or the divine nature and the spiritual evolution of mankind. They are making your children good little children of the New World Order. And they make it so fluffy and so good and so seductive sounding that why would you even think it was something bad? And this is why I do this show, because things today that are good are called evil, and things that are called evil are good. The whole world is becoming upside down, and it's being done by these people in powerful positions who are channeling, taking their commandments, taking their marching orders through the spiritual channelers. This is what the people who have come out, and I've been wanting to show you clips and read you. I haven't had time to put it together yet, but there are clips and transcripts that I can read to you from whistleblowers who've come out of very high-level Illuminati positions and occult positions who will tell you exactly what I'm saying. In fact, you don't even get in unless you're invited spiritually to be part of the organization. So that's the concept. There's two philosophies in the world. One is that mankind is divine and we are evolving spiritually. And the other one is that we need the divine. We need the divine because we have lost it. We do not have it. And when you look at the depraved condition of the world today and you understand how the deception is being thrust upon people, then it all makes sense. There is so much to this that could be spoken. I've spoken literally for 5 hours straight on this, and just telling you how much material you could cover, but I'm giving you the big picture. You can research the smaller pieces, or you can come back to Global Skywatch Radio in the future, and we'll cover little pieces here and there and fill in all the gaps. But I'm trying as quickly as I can to fill in the big pieces, because what you're seeing happen before you today is epic. So anyway, Childhoods and Arthur C Clarke, now showing on the Sci-Fi Channel. This guy here is the savior of the world. He is the one who's bringing knowledge and technology to the world to solve all the world's problems. What you have to understand is when you do study out geopolitics and you look at what's going on in the world, you find out that the root problem is not that we lack knowledge. The root problem is that we lack morality. And what I mean by this, and this is critical to understand, is that if the public was awake and alert, was caring about and loving their fellow man right now, they would become knowledgeable about the things that they care about. If your relative had cancer, you would learn about cancer, and what you would do is you'd learn about amygdalin, you would learn about B17, you would learn about enzymatic therapies, you would learn about THC and many of the other very, very cutting-edge modalities for cancer that work, that have been shown to work tremendously, but have been covered up by the powers that be. So when you love and you care, you become knowledgeable about the things you care about. If you care about sports, you're going to be knowledgeable about who's the MVP and who are the big players this year and who's doing what and who's being traded to what teams. That's the problem we have today, is that we have been seduced into becoming self-aggrandizing, becoming selfish by spending our time satisfying ourselves. There's nothing wrong with watching sports. I'm not anti-sports at all. But it does become a problem when it gets in the way of you doing your duty to mankind. And that's the problem we have with chemtrails today. Why can't we stop this? Why are we being sprayed? And you have whistleblowers. I'm not a whistleblower, but you have people like me who can smell and taste it. You have other whistleblowers who've come out. You have scientists who have come out. You have evidence on the ground. You have evidence in the sky. You have pilots who have come out. And yet the public is doing nothing. What is that? What is the problem? Is it because we lack knowledge? No, it's because we lack morality. People are standing back and saying, I don't want to get involved. I hope somebody else will clean up this mess. But the problem is, the mess is now so big that it's not going to get cleaned up. I do believe we could, if we had enough caring and loving people. And that's why so many people who become involved in active in exposing chemtrails and exposing smart meters and fracking and the dangers of vaccine additives and all of these other issues, these people, I've had so many say to me that they've met so many wonderful people who love, who are caring, who care about each other, because it's a different kind of person. It's a different kind of morality when you have people who love their brother and their sister. And I think back to Scripture where it says, they said, what's the most important commandments to Christ? They asked him, what is the most important commandment? And he said, there are two. Love your God and love your neighbor. In these two commandments are all other things fulfilled. And when we fulfill that, then when we have that morality and we have that sense of personal responsibility, then we will be equipped to have more knowledge and more power, and we will do it and use it wisely. There's a principle, a scriptural principle that says, he who is faithful with little will be faithful with much. In other words, the faithfulness in managing small things is the same faithfulness with managing big things. And that's the principle we're talking about here. The problem we have is a lack of morality. We have 61,000 people in our Facebook group, over 61,000 as I say this, and yet there's only a handful of people doing anything. The majority of people are still spectators, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but the clock is running out very quickly. I'm getting to the point here in Maine today where I'm having episodes where I'm having trouble breathing and I'm having to take herbs to stay alive. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. This is not a joke to me. This is the end of the line. We're facing the end of the line. Many people have already crossed that threshold. They've already passed on because they've had congestive heart failure, they've had strokes and aneurysms and cancer, and they've died because we haven't already gotten enough people to stand up, who have that morality, who have that love for other people to stand up and do something about this. So, getting back to the movie Anastasia, getting back to the mystery school's philosophy, it is not knowledge that saves us. Knowledge is something that comes when we're morally equipped in God's time, when we're morally equipped to handle that knowledge. But what happens is these people in powerful positions have subverted that naturally balancing system, that moral system, and they have achieved and attained knowledge themselves. I've said in many shows that I've done that even Tesla talked about the spirit that gives him, the guide, the spirit guide that gave him knowledge, that made him a genius. In fact, the word genius, where does the word genius come from? It comes from the word genie. It's a spiritual entity that makes you smart or talented. This is Bob Dylan talks in a video that I showed, excuse me, that you can find on YouTube, about selling his soul. This is what I was talking about a minute ago about the crossroads in the Coen movie, Oh Father, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It had George Clooney in it. It was a very funny movie. I mean, it was a very entertaining movie. But when I watched the movie, because I know what I know about the mystery schools and about the occult and about biblical prophecy, I was just taken back watching this movie going, oh my God, this movie is a very detailed expose of the process of selling your soul, and gaining knowledge and talent in the process. Just amazing what I was watching. I recognized it right away because of my background. Again, I'm not claiming to be a genius or to be super wise about any one of these subjects, but the key is to know enough about the variety of subjects so that you put the pieces together and you recognize things for what they are. And don't limit yourself. You know, understand the big picture. Know your enemy, as Scripture says. You have an enemy. The problem is, and Kaiser Sosa said in the movie, this is brilliant. In the movie The Usual Suspects, he said, the most brilliant trick the devil ever pulled was in convincing people that he doesn't exist. And that's exactly true. That's exactly the state we have today, is that we have a public that believes that everything is fine. They can watch their sports and they can do stuff, which there's nothing wrong with these things. But the problem is they're neglecting the important things, because we are having our freedoms taken away. We are having our medicines taken away. People are dying because they're being poisoned, and because knowledge is being withheld from the public. It's being hoarded by the elites and withheld from the public, and we suffer as a result. And that is the pinnacle of immorality. And this is why movies like Anastasia are completely backwards. It's the Christians who want to give people the truth and understand that you have to have an underlying morality before you can have the power that's given to you by knowledge. But it is the mystery schools, it is the Kabbalists, it is the spiritual diviners, who are trying to achieve knowledge, or trying to short-circuit the process and achieve power through knowledge without having the background that is required to use it properly. And that is the problem. All right. Let's move on. So much for moving quickly, right? But I want to show you and share this information because I'm very convicted inside that because I have found out some things in life, they have to be shared. And it's up to people whether or not they will take them, study them, look deeper into them. But I want to give you the big picture and share as much as I can. What I said earlier about the Antichrist is true. Revelation 13 talks about you cannot buy or sell. This is the most famous, or at least well-known scripture chapter, probably. Revelation 13 talks about, movies like Damien have been made about it. 666, you cannot buy or sell unless you have the number of his name, or a couple other things on your right hand or forehead. You cannot buy or sell. And we have one of the Rockefeller brothers who actually interviewed Aaron Russo, producer Aaron Russo, talked about how one of the Rockefeller brothers who was befriending him told him that that's why they're making the chip, because if you can't buy or sell if you don't toe the line. If you're a political dissident, if you're somebody like me who tells the truth out of the conviction of their heart because they care about people and they love people and they love the truth, then they will turn the chip off and you can't buy or sell. Same thing with vaccines. This is all coming down the line. You don't get your vaccine, you can't buy or sell. It's ultimately about control of people, and that's what the mystery schools comes down to on the dark side. And you have to understand that there's a dark side and a light side to everything. It's like the five-pointed star. When it's right side up, you have the divination, or the divine human. That's what it represents. There's other things it represents as well, but it's the divine human. It's the Michelangelo painting. If you turn it upside down, that's the white side. That's the yin. You have the yin and the yang, the light side, the dark side, the female and the male. You have the two pillars that you always see in masonry. Jachin and Boaz. You have the light and the dark. You have the female and the male coming together. You have that in the six-pointed star. You have that in the cube within the cube. You can go to many of the churches. You can go to the Orthodox or the Catholic churches. You'll see the cube and the cube, and one of the cubes is turned 45 degrees. It's the same. It has the same meaning as the six-pointed star, where you have the triangle inverted in the other triangle. It's the generative symbol, the symbol of reproduction. That's what the G is in Masonry. When you see the G in the middle of the compass in the square. Okay, I'm really going on into this stuff. I just want to share so much of it. But nevertheless, let's get on to a few other things to try to paint a bigger picture and put all the pieces together. This is what we're headed for, though. This is the big thing. You're headed for Revelation 13. where you cannot buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast on your right hand or forehead. That's 666. If you look at barcodes today, the synchronization bands that are on either end and in the middle are the number 6. They're not intended to be the number 6, but they incidentally are because of their dimensions. And also, if you look at the etymology of the word, and this is the thing that fascinates me about the Bible. A lot of people throw the Bible out, or they demean it because they've heard quips on Facebook that demean it, and it's all lies. Taken out of context, lies, mistranslated. They're doing. I've never seen such slander. But if you look at the etymology of the word mark that is used in Revelation 14, it means offense. The etymology, the root is offense. And what is a fence? It's a bunch of vertical boards, right? What does the UPC symbol look like? It looks like a fence. And that's when I've studied the Bible. Unfortunately, you don't hear this stuff in the churches today. Unless you go to a really, really good church. You do hear them once in a while. You can find a good church that really talks about this stuff. But the UPC symbol that looks like a fence comes from the word that is used for the mark of the beast in Revelation 13. And the root word of that means offense. And that's our clue. And this is one of the many things in Scripture that has just blown me away, because you find this stuff over and over and over and over again. Even down to numerology, which is fascinating. The Levites had 8, which is the beginning of a new cycle. Christ's 888. You have see, there's so much I get here. That was one of the factors of the names of all of the Levites that are mentioned in the Old Testament, where 7 are the rest of the tribes. The names that call it the gematria. It's the number of the name. That's what Revelation talks about, the number of the name. What is the number of the name? Like a lot of people said Ronald Reagan was the Antichrist because the number of his name in English was 666. Well, I don't believe that. I believe there's a whole another reason for that kind of stuff. You're talking about English here, but what we're talking about is something that's not English. But nevertheless, when you look in the original languages, you can see the numerology of people's names, and it's absolutely amazing. 153 fish were captured in the ocean when Peter was throwing his net out, caught nothing, and Christ said, "Throw it over the right side." And they threw the net over. They caught 153 fish, and people think nothing of that. They read the Bible and they're like, "Oh, 153 fish, big deal." Well, do you know the total number of people that were healed in the 4 Gospels is 153? And that the number 153, in fact, I'm getting on a tangent here, but this is too important for me to sidestep. So let me finish this thought with you, and then I'll go on back to what we were talking about. Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, so here we go. Number 153, for instance. Gematria, the number of the name of Beni Ha Elohim, which is the phrase sons of God, occurs 7 times. And the numerological value is 153. Now 13 in the occult is generally considered a number of good fortune or luck or something very positive. In biblical numerology, however, it's the number of rebellion. And of course, if you understand both sides of the mystery schools and you understand biblical numerology, of course, that they would change the number 9 and the number 13, because the number 9 is associated with judgment in the Scripture, but yet it's something very different in the occult, in the mystery schools. The number 13 is the number of rebellion in the Scripture. So not surprisingly, when you have every time in Scripture when you have the phrase Beni Ha Elohim, which means the sons of God, with Satan among them mentioned, the gematria of the phrase is 1989, which is 153 times 13. So you have 153, which are those chosen ones, those who were caught by the net that Christ said to throw over. Those are the ones that were saved. Those who were saved out of the water, which represents people. Okay, out of the ocean of people. The net saved 153 fishes. Well, that was the sons of God, Beni Ha Elohim, with Satan among them, which is the rebellious one. He is the lawless one, and lawlessness is rebellion. And so 153 times 13 is 1989. Another phrase that's very interesting is joint heirs in Romans 8. The phrase joint heirs with Christ. Joint heirs, the Chemtrail, is 1071, which is 153 times 7. And when you understand these different numbers, it makes sense, because 153, of course, what is that? Those are the ones who are pulled with a net out of the ocean of people. Those are the ones who are saved. What is 7? 7 is spiritual perfection. 7 is the number of spiritual perfection. So you have the joint heirs who have achieved spiritual perfection through the blood of Christ, and they are the ones who are saved out of the water, the ocean of people. They are one of the fishes. The creation of God. This is another interesting one when it refers to the saved, when it refers to the sons of God. Chemtrail is 1224, which is 8 times 153. So there's the number 153, and 8, which is the beginning of a new cycle. The number of Christ, which is 888, as opposed to Antichrist, which is 666. Again, I could get into detail about this, but I'm just giving you the overview. The word fishes, Chemtrail, is the number 1224 as well, which is 8 by 153. And fishes represent those who are saved by the net. Even the word the net, isn't this amazing? The net is also 1224. That's the numerical value of it. 8 times 153. And if you look in all 4 Gospels in the New Testament, the first 4, and the number 4 is always associated with the creative works of Christ. In fact, the 4th word in the Bible is Aleph Tav. The very first word in the Bible is in the beginning. So 1 represents the omniscient all-time. 1. The second word in the Bible, created. It's not the words are in a different order than we would have them in English. So in the beginning, created. That's the verb. That's the number 2. Now, when God created this creation, all creation, he divided it from himself. The mystery schools, this is where the mystery schools is very divergent, because they're pantheistic. They believe that God is in everything, but that is not the biblical view at all. The biblical view is that creation was separated from God. It was divided, and that's what the number 2 is. Number 2 is when you divide something from something else. That's either division or companionship. And so you have the second word in the very beginning of Genesis is the word created. The third word is God, Elohim, which is the general word for God. So in the beginning, created, God. And of course, that's the number 3, the third word in the Bible, because it's a triune God, and 3 is the number of the triune God. The 4th word is not translated. The 4th word in Genesis is the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Tav, right next to each other, and there's no translation for it. It's just sitting there, and translators left it there because they didn't know what it is. Interestingly, in the last book of the Bible, Christ refers to himself as the Alpha and the Omega. What is the Alpha and the Omega? Christ is the Alpha and the Omega. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He refers to himself as the first and last letter of the Greek alphabet. The 4th word at the very beginning of the Bible is Aleph Tav, the very first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The number 4 is always associated with the creative works of Christ. So isn't that interesting that the first 4 words in the Bible are in the beginning, which is the number 1, the all-encompassing number, in the beginning, created, second word, he divided it from himself, the third word, God, the triune God, the number 3, and then Aleph Tav is the 4th word, which is not translated. And all things, the Bible is very clear, it says all things that were created through Christ. And that's an interesting concept, and that you could study that in and of itself, but they were created through Christ. And that's why the number 4 is associated. It's the 4th word in the Bible. It's associated with the creative works of Christ. And Christ's symbol, the Aleph and the Tav, the first and last letter of the alphabet, the beginning and the end, are right there next to God. Interesting stuff. And I'm just scratching the surface. Wow, did I get off on a tangent. Excuse me, again, the air is just horrible here. I'm sitting here sweating, and my lungs are inflamed, and my sinuses are inflamed, and this is all because of the spraying. So we're revealing. Let's get back to the news I wanted to share with you. I'm sorry if I got off on those tangents, but that's what happens. It's important information, and I love that stuff. It's absolutely amazing what you will find. And please don't neglect to read. If you read nothing else, go get your Bible, and it better not to get an NIV or an NASB. Get a regular old King James Bible. That is the most accurate translations. The NIV and the NASB and even the New King James are deliberately mistranslated in certain places. It's subtle, but they do leave key words out that it's absolutely astonishing. A whole study has been done on that many times. That is amazing. But these new translations have been corrupted. So if you do nothing else, it only takes a few minutes. Read chapter 13 of the book of the Revelation. It's not called Revelations, by the way. If you want to sound smart and people you want to talk about it, don't say, "Oh, I'm reading the book of Revelations." There is no book of Revelations. It's called the Revelation. It's one revelation. It's the revelation of Christ through John. And again, remember I said earlier, John and Daniel were the two who were beloved, who were the two who received the most knowledge. I'm so sorry for the coughing. Read chapter 13 of the book of the Revelation, and because you're on the brink of seeing the mark appear. We're going to see it here before too long, and you will not be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark, and it will all be done in the name of security. All right, we're going to jump back to where I was in the news that I had planned to share with you. Want to share with you some kosher beers, Contrail White. Yes, indeed. This is part of normalization. This is neurolinguistics. When you make something common, you normalize it. Most of you know what I'm talking about when I talk about normalization, but you're taking a concept such as a contrail. It is absolutely stunning when you see this in videos or movies or shows, television shows. It will blow you away. If you're observant, you will see them bring up these concepts very subtly, and they're out of context. But they will bring these things up because they're using neurolinguistics on the public to normalize these subjects. So here's Contrail Beer. This is a real thing. I've looked this up. There's articles on it. Contrail Beer. Let's look at a couple other pictures here. This is normalization in progress to make people familiar. Here's some pictures. Let me read this to you real quick. Normalization is the process of making something horrible or obscure something so common that people don't consider its root meaning. Normalization sets up associations so that harmful things become associated with good or positive thoughts. Once you realize that so much of the manufacturing complex is controlled by a small group of people practicing the mystery school's religion, this is all I've been talking to you about right now, then you can understand how normalization can be so pervasive in the world today. It is all over because they control everything. You don't get to be the CEO or on the board of a powerful international corporation unless you're part of the brotherhood. That's the way the world works. They've been doing this a long time. They're very good at what they do. And that's why you see all this normalization so pervasive. Here's Contrail White Beer. Here's some of the labels. This is completely real. See, they've got the prop jet there with some trails coming out. There's a jet back there with a big trail coming out. It's stunning when you realize that jets don't produce trails. They don't. Not unless you add something, unless you inject something into the airstream, which is what I believe they're doing. Here you go, Contrail White. Here's another label down here, Contrail White. Just stunning. There's the jet. Looks like an A330 maybe. You know, I mean, I'm sure they didn't model this. They didn't really care, but it's a typical two engines under the wing, winglets on the end. Could be an A330 type of jet, which is the most common commercial jet format that we see. The design with two large engines, and the winglets are Only the newer Boeing 737s have winglets. The older ones don't. But the Airbus A330s, A320, 319, 321s, they have the winglets. Not that that's important here, but nevertheless, here's Contrail white beer. Normalization at work, very strange name for a beer. But when you see the term Contrail being mentioned in shows, you probably haven't even noticed it unless you're really paying attention. Contrails are everywhere, and harp as well. And I think I have harp in here somewhere. But you know what? I'll get to that when I do. I'm going to run through the rest of my news real quick. Okay, here's more normalization for you. I actually I went to Florida a couple weeks ago. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you saw me upload a bunch of videos of a band reunion, which I was part of. My best friends I grew up with in Florida. We had a band, best times of our lives, and we had a big reunion along with another band. And I uploaded all those videos last night. So sorry about the inundation of all the videos, but I had to get them up there. When I flew in to go to that a couple weeks ago, to go to that reunion, I flew in through St. Pete International Airport, and incidentally, I saw this picture on the wall. I didn't take this picture, but I saw this picture. I was in the room where this picture was, and you know, it's one of those things where it just looks like clouds, and it looks like it's nondescript, but yet it's normalization. It's normalizing the idea of all these streaks in front of blue. It's just blatant. It's in an airport. It's what they do. All right, here's some more normalization for you. I'm going to show you a little video here. We don't have audio, but this is a football halftime show. This is also in the Global Skywatch news feed. They form an airplane. I mean, you have to understand that these people control everything. I don't know if you can hear the sound. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to just fast forward. They form a jet. And then as the jet goes across the ground, they're spraying chemtrails. And how do I know they're chemtrails? Because there's no such thing as contrails, at least not that come from engines. Or under very rare conditions, such as the SPAY 512, which uses water injection. So there you go. There's a halftime show, and they've got the trails come out of the engines. They are so normalizing this. It is stunning. It is conceivable that whoever designed and wrote this may just be so conditioned themselves that they decided to put trails behind the jets. But sometimes to see a jet in a football stadium like this seems a little out of place. But whether it's somebody preconditioned doing this or somebody who is conditioning doing this, because this involves a huge number of people, you can see a large stadium here that's nearly full. This is probably done deliberately by people who know what they're doing. This halftime show was directed to be exactly that. And so there's more normalization right there. Let's move on and show more normalization going on in textbooks. I just want to show you that the textbooks, it's not a coincidence that this is happening globally because they control virtually all nations in the world, whether it's an American textbook or a European textbook, or here we have a French, I think it's French. Yeah, it looks like French to me. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I did take French in high school, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, there we have a little girl pointing up to the trails coming out of the jets. This is normalization. This is indoctrination. These kids will grow up thinking that these are harmless trails, that they are just condensation, and they'll never realize, just like we never realized for years and years and years that our diseases were being caused by vaccines, additives, and by amalgam fillings, while they were right in our mouth. They were right in front of us, literally right in our mouth, and yet we didn't know. And I lived my entire life with all of the physical and emotional distresses that I did from mercury leaking out of those fillings until the year 2000 in July. I had them removed. I finally found out that they were causing me to have severe health problems, which had gotten worse year by year. And I had them out, and everything went away. And I never felt better in my life. I never slept better. I never had more energy. My mind was never clear. My memory was never better. But those days are gone because with what they're spraying us with, including mercury, which I talked about last week, people are not recovering from, they're not having great recoveries. In fact, the mercury symptoms I'm having on heavy spray days now is nearly equivalent to me having 9 fillings in my mouth. We are being inundated. And I told you, I've also shared with you previously that my own dust test showed 0.2 or 0.3 micrograms of mercury in an air filter. And I'm having people all over. I covered this last week, so watch the Monday night show on the 14th of March 14th, 2016, if you want to hear all about mercury being sprayed on us. I firmly believe that mercury is one of their favorite metals, and they are spraying that, and that's why it's showing up all over in soils. So more disinformation. You've probably seen these yellow pages. They're showing a jet with a trail. Climate change, contrails. They're trying to say, well, the reason we're seeing so many contrails today, quote-unquote contrails, is because of climate change. And, of course, they're killing 2 birds with 1 stone there, selling the idea of climate change while at the same time they're producing climate change using aerosol injection into the engines, which is exactly how I believe they're doing it. This is not jet fuel additives. It's not other manifestations. It is injection into the bypass air, which I'll show you why I believe that in a minute. Sculptures on the side of the road showing jet trails. These abstract pictures of trails, I mean, just hanging on the wall. You know, they're supposed to look beautiful because they're just harmless water vapor. And another book. Many of you have seen that, so let me just move on quickly. In case you haven't seen it, please check out the Global Skywatch newsfeed, Chemtrail newsfeed, and you will see an article here called Weather Modification, Normalization, the Last American Snowball. Let me read this real quick. The story is taken from the scholastic.com store. It is a test designed to measure student reading comprehension. It also appears to be designed to normalize the concepts of weather modification and possibly global warming to school-aged children. The complete source PDF is located below. High, low passages to build comprehension. Grades 7 to 8. Priestley Scholastic Teaching Resources. That's the label on it. And what this says here, let me go ahead and read this to you real quick. It's a little small. Bill woke up with a feeling of excitement. It was the first day of winter, and that meant snow. Bill watched the first large flakes fall on the green grass. Bill dashed out of his large dashed out in his bare feet and pajamas. Sorry, it's hard to read this. He grabbed a handful of snow and tried to form it into a ball, but it kept falling apart. The government just couldn't get the formula right. He'd seen kids making snowballs in old movies. Mr. King, Mr. King, isn't that interesting, they named him Mr. King, came strolling down the street. Oh, brother, thought Bill. Here come the stories of the good old days. Before global warming, we used to have real snow, exclaimed Mr. King. Did you always have it precisely on the first day of winter? Asked Bill. No, admitted Mr. King, but snow was cold and we had to dress warmly. Was it fun to throw snowballs? Asked Bill. Mr. King nodded. I'll be right back, he said. Several minutes later, he returned with something in his mittened hand. The mitten was wet and dark. What's that? Asked Bill. It's an authentic American snowball, said Mr. King. It's probably the last in America. It's been in my freezer for over 20 years, but I want you to have it. Thanks, said Bill, taking the snowball. Can I do whatever I want with it? Mr. King grinned. I presume you know what snowballs are for, he said. Bill eyed the side of the house. And they have a little test down here below that tests your reading comprehension. When did the story take place? What is strange about the weather in the story? What will Bill probably do next? This is normalization. This is preconditioning for weather modification technology, of course. This is a very interesting story to have in a book. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. This stuff is pervasive, and it's only going to become more so as time goes on. It's already everywhere. Okay, let me get through the rest of the news here quickly. National Geographic has a story. Plane exhaust kills more people than plane crashes. Interestingly, as this plane is taking off, you can see the dark soot, which is characteristic of burnt kerosene or jet fuel coming out of the engines, which is typically what you see. That's what you'll see, and that's what you'll smell when you go to the airport. Anyway, they're starting to publicize the concept to people that plane exhaust kills people, and it's poison. And what they're going to do is they're going to ask the EPA to step in. This is what the EPA hearings were about. They're not because they want to stop chemtrails, because they don't even recognize that chemtrails exist. It's because they're going to blame this on jet fuel additives and on the engines themselves, and they're going to go ahead and admit, yes, particles are falling out. That's where these metals are coming from, and there are poisons coming from these jet fuel additives, and my gosh, we must do something about it. And so the EPA is going to come running to the rescue, and they're going to, over a long period of time, try to change the jet fuel additives, and they're going to again, all the while, keep spraying you while acting like they're trying to do something good. And so they're basically just buying time, and that's what they're really good at. So anyway, very interesting story, more normalization. Getting back to the spiritual side of things, I know I'm jumping around, but once again, I'm always limited time in my preparation for these shows. Here's a story from a music magazine online, and if I can get past the advertisements, I want to get back into something very interesting. Let me see if I can. Give me just a second here. Now, that may not be the right link. Oh, that's the same link. Oh, there we are. Okay, it is here. I mentioned last week about this singer for Matchbox 20, the song Smooth. Very big hit song. Carlos Santana played guitar on it. I'm going to read this one paragraph from this story, and this is just a reference, and there's hundreds of references of musicians making references to angels, demons, spirits, guides, spirit guides, all kinds of things. This is absolutely saturates the music industry and Hollywood itself too, but this is just a little flavor of it. Nothing against Carlos Santana. I know he's very talented, but you have to understand what these people believe and understand how pervasive it is. Here's the paragraph. Supernatural sold more than 27 million copies and won 9 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year. But don't credit Santana or Davis. Credit Metatron. The biblical angel some believe is the person who stopped Abraham from sacrificing his child. Okay, that's not who Metatron is. I'm going to tell you who Metatron is in a second. That supernatural success was something God wanted, said Santana. A year before he and Davis reconnected, Santana says he began consulting with the angel Metatron. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but I don't care. They say you speak to Metatron and the Virgin of Guadalupe. How can you say that? And I say, how can you believe in God and not be able to speak with him? You speak to him, but he can't speak to you. What kind of relationship is that? That's fantasy. So he's implying that this angel, not only does he speak to the angel, but the angel speaks to him. If you do your research, you will find out that Metatron is Satan. Look it up, research it. There's a little bit of conflicting information online, but the bottom line is that is Lucifer. It is not the biblical angel that some believe stopped Abraham from sacrificing his child, although that's something that would be very typically printed in a story like this to give Metatron a positive light. But that's not who Metatron is. So anyway, I made reference to this last week, talked about Carlos Santana thanking the angels and thanking Metatron and the ones that he communes with. And remember that the word genius comes from the jinn, and the jinn is a demon. It is a spirit demon that makes people successful or wise. And I've spoken before about AC/DC, who speak about the fifth member of the group who helps them write songs. Plato talked about his communion with entities that made him wise. Tesla talked about it. Many rappers today talk about it. Many movie stars talk about it. Singers, popular singers, and so on. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm not making this stuff up. It's just stuff that we need to be aware of to understand how the world really works. Last week, I was looking for this article, and I wasn't able to find it quickly enough, so I passed on by. But I wanted to show this. Isaiah 35 and Ezekiel talk about a prophecy. They talk about that the Arabah says the desert will blossom like a rose, the Dead Sea will become two bodies of water. There will be a rich farming land in the Arabah, which is one of the deadest deserts, completely dead desert that surrounds the Dead Sea. And then eventually the northern portion of the sea will be a rich fishing ground. The southern portion will be given over salt. And there will be a pool there. There will be water that will fill up pools. And this article on AccuWeather.com says, photos, sinkholes deep as 8-story buildings form along the shoreline of the disappearing Dead Sea. The reason it's called the disappearing Dead Sea is because the water level is decreasing dramatically in the Dead Sea, and a rift has been revealed in the Dead Sea now that divides the water into a northern and southern portion. And the southern portion has been given over salt. The northern portion salinity levels are decreasing, so that there will be fish. Fishing will be able to be done in that in I don't know, a few years perhaps. I'm not sure the timeline. And the Dead Sea, which is called the Arabah, the desert, which is called the Arabah, which is the actual word that's used in Isaiah, but it's translated desert, so you just think it's talking very generically. It's not. It's talking about a very specific desert in that prophecy. Is being richly farmed right now around the Dead Sea from one of the largest aquifers in the world that was discovered below it. So they're pumping water up, and the prophecy says there will be pools there, or there will be a pool there, and that water would come forth into the pools. And here are pictures. There's an aerial picture right there. It looks like, these pools, and you can see it's on a farming. It's in a rectangle where they're farming the land. And the pools are forming. The craters are forming. The pools are forming. They have some water in them. You can see the water here already forming. Here, let me find some more. Here's a huge one. People standing up on the ridge over here. Huge crater. Sinkhole. I should be calling them sinkholes. Here's some more. And I'm showing this to you for those who want to listen. You're welcome to shut this off if this isn't interesting to you, but I hope it is. Because, okay, here's a close-up of the earlier picture. See, they're farming. You can see the rectangles of the plants that they're growing. And they have danger signs. So anyway, there, you get the idea. There's a pool that has formed. There's looking down one. Fascinating development. And the reason this is fascinating is because Isaiah and Ezekiel, especially Isaiah, they both have a part of this prophecy in both books, but Isaiah 35 is where the primary information is. It says that God will prepare this land. There will be a pool there. All the things I just told you, and I also went in this last week. God will prepare this land so that those who are traveling from the southern portions who come up to see the Messiah will have food and water along the way. And so this is God. This is what the Scripture says, is that this is God preparing the land. There you have it. For the return of Messiah, for the benefit of those who are traveling, he wants to make sure they've got food and water along the way. And that's just like him. If you get to know him, that's the kind of thing he would do. So he's preparing the land. This is something that happens shortly before the return of Christ, and this is why I say this is becoming imminent. This is very, very, very important information that you don't hear in church. You hear really very little about every day. And I'm saying this over and over again in my interviews because this is the biggest event in human history, and we're on the edge of it. Right now we're looking at what I call Petroleum Clouds. Early whistleblower, I talked about this last week a little bit too. An early whistleblower talked about these clouds being, not these clouds, he referenced that they were going to be spraying petroleum products in the atmosphere as carriers for mercury and other metals, so that these metals, instead of just washing into the ground, would stick. The petroleum would stick to leaves, to grass, to trees. You would track it in your house, and you would get maximum exposure. And an early whistleblower went into great detail about this. And when you see these, you can see that these are not normal. This is not the normal color pattern that you will see from a typical water-based rainbow. This is what you would see if you had a petroleum product in a puddle on the ground and you had light reflecting off of it. You'll see a different type of pattern, a different type of rainbow that doesn't look like a normal rainbow. And if you are perceptive enough, you can excuse me, you can just look at that and see that that's not normal. That is a petroleum rainbow. And that makes sense. Also, combined with the fact that that acetone is used in weather control patents. So interesting information. Don't be confused by this. They're going to, mainstream media will try to make you think these have been around for a long time, or they'll try to explain why they're new if they do admit that they're new. I'm not young, and I've never seen these before. This is a new phenomenon, and it's associated with chemtrails. Another thing, I've talked a lot about bifurcated trails. I'm sorry this is going on so long. I always tend to do this. What this is you can see in some of these close-up pictures, and I want to let it, my thanks to authors for this, and please allow me to use this in fair use. You will see, let's zoom in on the actual trails. I'm just going to cover this briefly. You'll see that if this were really water vapor that was forming from jet exhaust, you would see a thin line that was coming from the center of the engine. That's what you'd expect to see, because that's where all the gas is. 85% of the air that's coming through this engine is just sucked in the front and blown at the back by a fan. It doesn't have any jet fuel mixed with it. What you're seeing here is you're seeing these different trails forming like a fork. You can see the line here, you can see the line here, and you see this over and over again in many jets. This doesn't occur in all of them, but you can see them in many pictures, and I think they're using different methods for dispersing the trails depending on what they're dispersing, because as we know, they're dispersing several different types of things. My point in showing you this is this has been coined trail bifurcation, and what this shows us is that there are injectors in the bypass air, which is the 85% of the air that's going around the core, which is where the fuel is burnt and where the power is generated. In the air that's around, that's going through the bypass portion of the engine, there are injectors that are putting the aerosols in, and that's where you're seeing this formation happen. And you can see there's probably an injector on one side of the engine and an injector on the other. There may be three here, injectors around the circumference of the bypass section of this engine, and that's why you're seeing this trifurcation. It looks like you have three different areas where we're seeing the trails form. Huge evidence right here. This is very, very telling of what's going on. That looks like a 777 actually, looking at the, unless the angle makes the winglets look. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you. Let's see if we can get another close-up. Yeah, look at that. That's just huge. I mean, any person with any scientific background should look at that and go, that's very interesting. That gives us some real information about what's going on inside that engine, and it's not condensation formation from the burning of jet fuel. That doesn't make any sense at all. let me see what else I want to show you. I've talked about this previously too. I know I'm jumping around here, but Mercola wrote an article, and I like Mercola. Mercola has a lot of excellent information. Unfortunately, he did an article here called Tips and Guidance in Living Your Passion from the author of the Celestine Prophecy. There are the mystery schools writers have symbols and phrases that they will put in their literature, in their writings, in their movies that let other occultists, other Kabbalists, other mystery schools believers know that that program, that literature, that writing, that TV show was written by one of their brotherhood. And one of the phrases that are used to indicate, there's a number of phrases that are used. And this is referred, there's reference this made also by, well, I won't get into that. This Elton John's co-writer who wrote the lyrics for his songs called Bernie Taupin talks about this. He makes a reference to it, but it's not a direct reference. And he said he didn't write a single song that didn't have what he calls witch language in the song. So interesting about, you can find a lot of interesting information in Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album, some of the lyrics and stuff. But anyway, getting back to this, one of the phrases that are used to communicate that this article or this literature or this show was written by the Brotherhood is the phrase, as above, so below. And I actually had a relative buy me a copy of the Celestine Prophecy because they thought I would enjoy it, and I thought it was a very nice gesture, of course, and I appreciated it. But I opened I opened up the page, and on the very first page it was blank, and it just had the phrase right in the middle, said as above, so below. And I was like, there we go. There's the signal right there. So I know who wrote this, and I know what it's going to promote. And sure enough, it promotes the divinity of mankind. You know, you can will things into existence. You can do this. And of course, when you will things into existence, it's not you willing them. It is those jinn, it is those beings who are trying, as part of the hierarchy, they are trying to make you believe the lie, the great lie that the Bible calls strong delusion, by making some of those things happen so that it convinces you. And the seduction is so appealing that it's very easy to convince many people that they can will things. And this is one reason why I say, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I have to be very honest, is that the sitting around and meditating that chemtrails go away, I believe it's a complete waste of time. If you want to get rid of chemtrails, you need to take action. There needs to be legal action. There needs to be awakening among the people of what's going on. There needs to be deliberate, tactical action taken to mobilize the public, to start a process of ending these in a very tactical way. There's nothing that the mystery schools people would love more than for you to sit around and meditate and to imagine chemtrails being gone. There's whole volumes of information that will try to convince you that you can really do this, and they will tell you how other people have done it. And here's this guy who visualized this, and this guy could see things remotely, and this guy, but that's all done through spiritual induction. And the spirits who are doing the inducing are not your friends. And that's the problem we have today, and that they're the ones who are creating the strong delusion. So, the Celestine Prophecy, divination of mankind, if you like that and you adhere to the philosophies that are espoused in the Celestine Prophecy, then you are becoming a child of the New World Order. And I'm telling you that because I want you to be aware and not fall into those traps. Amazingly, I thought I was going to run out of time early, but I've still got a number of articles to cover. I'm going to save these for next week. It's already 10:38. I can't believe how long this has taken. But knowing how I go off subject on these different things, it does make sense. Okay, much more I could talk about, but I do want to open the phone lines right now. I know that this format is different than we've had. We will have guests in the future. We will diversify our information a little bit. We will share other opinions and have other people offering information. But my own personal conviction is to get in the meantime is to concentrate right now on getting information out that other people are not sharing. I shared last week E pluribus unum, in many one. What does that mean on the $1 bill? Please listen to last week's show so you can hear and understand that. I would also encourage you to visit this website, which is our sister website called Orbis Vitae. Go to the forum, or to the Media Depot, we call it, and scroll across. There's many incredible videos. All the best videos are shown, highlighted at the top of this website. Scroll over to the one called Apollyon Rising 2012 with Tom Horn. This is stunning. Absolutely stunning video that will wake you up to some of the things that I've been talking about if you're not aware of them. And I do hope you want to be aware of them, because we are living in times like no other, and the deception is deeper, stronger, more convincing than it's ever been before, which is why I'm doing this. Many people will not like the things I say. Other people will love the things I say. But the most important thing to me is not to be afraid to say what I believe is the truth based on my own personal convictions and my research. And when you put all the pieces together, there are no more big surprises. All the big surprises have already been revealed through biblical prophecy. So when Chemtrails started, I want to be totally honest with you, I didn't go, oh my God, what are they doing? I said, aha, that's how they're going to do it, because I was already familiar with Revelation 18:23 that says they're going to deceive the nations, the people, by poisoning them. They're going to deceive the world, the nations of the world, by poisoning and drugging them. I knew that was going to happen, but I wondered in my mind how it was going to happen, because I saw more people moving away from fluoride, more people moving away from pharmaceutical drugs. So it kind of seemed like we were going backwards. But then when I discovered chemtrails, I remember that fateful day when I discovered them, and I was absolutely overwhelmed by the smell, the taste, and the physical symptoms. They hit us hard that day. I had to cancel my employee meeting that I had planned that night because I had 3 employees at the time. I said, aha, that's how they're going to do it. Now I see how that prophecy is going to be fulfilled. And once you understand the accuracy, the depth, and the tone that Scripture sets when it talks prophetically and numerically in the numerology, biblical numerics, you're not surprised by these things anymore. And that's what I want for those who listen and who love the truth. I want people to be saved from going through the trouble and the suffering and the despair that is before us. We're on the brink of, not on the brink, but we're not far from World War III. This has all been planned a long time ago. Read Alper Pike's letter on this. A lot of people say that letter was a fraud, yet it actually matches up exactly what's going to happen. And that's another subject we could talk about for a long time. But nevertheless, not to be despairing, the information that I hope this information has been beneficial for you. If you've called into the console, I see a number of people there. Please press *6 on your phone. Actually, no, don't bother. I'm going to turn off the Q&A so anybody can talk.
Q&A session is over.
Okay, now anybody who wants to talk can talk. Please join in. And for those listening to the live stream, feel free to join in too. And I hope you can, if you want to call in, just go to globalskywatch.com/live. And the phone numbers are there for many different countries, including the United States. So is there anybody on the console who'd like to chime in tonight? Anybody? Kim, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm there.
There you are. How you doing, Kim?
Oh, pretty good. I'm doing like 3 things at once, as always.
I know what that's like. I've got to multitask all the time just to try to keep up. And I'm telling you, doing the show like this on Monday nights is a big chunk of time. I got to prepare. I'm never fully prepared. And I do it because it's important to get the information out, regardless of how few people or how many people listen. But people don't realize the amount of time that the administrators of the Global Skywatch Facebook group put in to administering the group. A lot of people think, oh, it's easy, it's simple. It's like you have no idea the time and the effort that goes into it.
No, they don't. They don't.
No, they don't. It's a sacrifice.
A lot of times you're going to hear, the complaints, but we don't always hear the rewards, the kudos. So.
Yeah. So a lot of times we just have to just have to remind ourselves that we're doing something good and something worthwhile, because the people who want to give compliments don't always speak up as often as maybe they should. But it's the ones who complain who always like to like to speak up.
They get it right out.
They do. Yeah, that's right. They do get it right out. They do get it right out. But you know what, Kim? The group has over 61,000 people in it. It's the fastest growing, largest group of its type on the planet. And
Amen.
And you and I were in it from the beginning. Well, you came on very early. I mean, how many people were in the group when you joined?
Actually, it was right around 3,000, I think. So I was kind of not right quite in the beginning, but
yeah, it took a while to get to that first 3,000, but
it was like between 15. Yeah, I think when I came, it was between 15 and 2,000, and then I was so full in, I didn't even notice when the other 1,000 hit. So I think it was right around 1,500. Like 1,000, like suddenly, what? There's what? How many more? Really?
Yeah, I remember. I did an interview. I thanked John Messeri for one of the biggest thrusts we had in the earlier days of the group. John Messeri is a great filmmaker, a videographer,
oh, he is.
Very skilled, and he made a condensed version of my interview with Dane Wigington. And it was the way he edited it, he took out all the fat and just made it very intense, very information-filled. It was maybe 20 minutes long, and it just went viral. And suddenly our membership just started skyrocketing. So it's amazing when you take your talent and you put it to use, and someone like John, gets it in his mind to do something good, and it just began to spin things. And it didn't just affect our group. I mean, many other chemtrail groups started growing very rapidly at the same time, because we've been in touch with other administrators, and we try to be friendly with all the other administrators, because we're all in this together. And it was just amazing how all these groups started growing so quickly. And so I always remember John for that. I believe in being faithful and loyal to those who are faithful and loyal to you. And he did some great things to help the numbers of people become aware that we need. So now we just need to get them motivated. So
he did. And the thing is about when you have something like that, everybody has their own little thing that they're really into. And maybe, starting out at Global Skywatch, it wasn't exactly what they were looking for, or maybe they just kind of wanted something just a little different, or whatever their style was. And then I ended up seeing, longtime members go ahead and just create their own pages. Like they just spawn off, little ferns. The spores would float, and they would just all land and just start getting excited, and they were taking action in their own way, in their own state, and doing their own thing. And I've kind of just followed the members, over the years, Russ, and just kind of followed them around. And, once in a while they'll message me and say, Kim, I'm dealing with all these trolls. What do I do? Or do you have any idea what this is about? And I'll look it up, and I kind of have it all documented and stuff, a lot of the stuff that I research. And
well, you're a veteran. You're a veteran.
I guess I must be.
Well, you are a veteran. You've been in this from early on, and so people come to you. We come to each other for help.
I babied my members like they're, like a mama bear kind of. I baby them a little bit, and and they're frustrated and whatever it is. They might just be like, oh, I'm so fed up, and I'm out, and I'm like, no. Wait a minute. Let's talk through this and whatever, figure out what got you so cranked up, and it's sometimes out of that, as opposed to losing a member. I'm actually not, because if you think about it, whatever it was that got them so fired up, obviously they care. Something's burning, something's got to come out, something is exciting them, and sometimes they'll go create their own page, and then boom, now we've got another 1,200 people that are getting cranked up also. Mm-hmm. So it's just growing, as an accumulative. If you foster people like the way that you and I do, if you foster them, they'll continue to grow. And the word is just getting spread like wildfire. It's just happening so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it really
and
is.
It staying close to your members, and it's through respecting them, and it's through caring about them, and encouraging them and nurturing them. And also, you obviously have to nip it in the bud when things get a little wacky. But I think that just the way that we've all worked together, you, I, our other team members, and our volunteers that bust their butts every day, everybody working together as a collaborative and being transparent, I really feel is we're successful where our home plate is. They take off, they start their own deal, they're successful, we share back and forth, and I think it's just growing quicker and quicker.
Yeah, I've seen the formation of many groups. You've got, like California Skywatch and Oklahoma Skywatch and, Montana Skywatch, and I love seeing this. We need
Isn't that amazing?
We need to organize locally. And for those who don't know, on the Global Skywatch not Facebook page, on the Global Skywatch website, we do provide, if you want forums dedicated to your city, to your area, to your group, I will create a forum for you that's for you, and you can moderate it, you can manage it, you can do whatever you want with it, and to help you manage your group. Of course, a lot of people choose to do it on Facebook because that just seems like a natural platform for starting groups like that.
Plus, you also list by state, too, in your forum. You have one area, if you have an event, you can go by state, and you can just look up whatever state you're in. Mm-hmm. And then you have, if you have a website that you want to share, it could be, a private website, but you can also do a Facebook website. You've got that. So people can look by state. So if they haven't set something up, they can find someone that has. So that's what I like about the Global Skywatch forums.
Yeah, and I'd like to invite people. The big problem I'm having now is I'm being very vulnerable and very honest in saying some of these things, but I'm having tremendous problems with my lungs right now. And the spraying, since I've been back from my reunion in Florida, the air in Florida was very mild compared to how it is here. I don't know if it's like that all the time, but the 10 days I was there was like heaven. It was just incredible. It wasn't perfectly clear. There was stuff in the air 24/7, but the intensity was significantly lower than it is in Maine. And I just want to say how urgent this is. For me, today I had an episode where I probably would have had my business partner take me to the hospital had it become any worse than it was. But they were spraying us so hard. They've been nucleating this. There's been a lot of fronts come through. We just had about, 7 or 10 inches fall of snow. And they're just spraying it like crazy. And it's weird. It's that weird snow that actually is like sheets. I can see it sliding off the metal roof of my shed, and it slides together in these big sheets. And I've never seen it do that before. The last few years, it always kind of did it in little chunks. But it's kind of knit together in a matrix. And I've seen more and more pictures come out like this. So they're spraying this stuff, and the stuff they're spraying makes my lungs so inflamed that I literally, if I walk across the room, I have to stand and catch my breath. And as I become more exposed to this stuff more month by month by month, I'm becoming more sensitized to this. And I'm saying this not to whine and to cry and to ask for pity. I'm saying this because how many people have already died? How many other people are having this problem? I know when I had my heart attack and I was in the hospital, that the night they sprayed us really hard, Tuesday night, they sprayed us really hard. I asked my business partner to bring up my mask so I could wear my mask throughout the night. The hospital went crazy with people having respiratory and heart problems and other issues. Was it a coincidence? Is it just a wild coincidence that all of that happened on the same night that they happened to spray Bangor, Maine really, really hard? No, it's because many, many people are affected by chemtrails, but they don't put the pieces together that chemtrails are the cause because they simply can't smell or taste it. And what I'd like to ask people to do is breathe in slowly and pass air over your tongue throughout the day at different times, anytime you think about it, and see if you don't taste a metallic or chemical taste on your tongue. More and more people that I've asked to do this, they can taste it. They don't think about it if they're not focusing on what they're tasting. But if they just take a second out and they focus on it and they breathe and pass air over their tongue as they breathe in, they'll go, yeah, it tastes like metal. It tastes like some kind of metal or some kind of chemical or something or some, pharmaceutical. Some, at different times it's different things. But I want people to realize how urgent this is. For me, it's very distressing because my body has such an inflammatory reaction that it is at times completely debilitating to me and downright scary. And I've gotten to a point in my life, which I actually did years ago because of my personal beliefs, but you have to make peace with death. And you have to understand that one day you're going to die, you're going to pass away, and you have to make peace with that. And the stuff that I've gone through with chemtrails have made me accelerate that process and do it in a much deeper way, where I feel like from day to day, I sometimes don't know what's going to happen. If they spray us hard enough and I have an attack and I can't breathe, it gets to the point where I feel like I'm suffocating. And it's getting worse and worse, and I see more and more people and hear from more and more people who are becoming sensitized as they become exposed more and more. That's how critical this is. There's so many people who are suffering, and I ask people not to wait until they are personally suffering. Get on this now. Become active now. You have the right to clean air. Nobody has the right to pollute, to intentionally pollute the air that you breathe. We are experiencing the largest crime against humanity in human history. Please, please get up. Go to Global Skywatch and click the link at the top that says, "What can I do?" or "How to get involved," and get involved today. Sorry I went on about that, Kim, but I just...
Russ.
Yes, who's there?
Hey, Russ. Dan Cherry in Rochester, New York, upstate New York.
Dan, good.
How are you and Kim?
Hey, good to hear from you, Dan. Good.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I got to tell you, Russ, I know what you're talking about, the nucleation. There are very few chemicals that I can tell affect me. One is the exact one that you talk about. I get the burning in the lungs every once in a while, and that's very problematic. It's anybody who experiences it and knows what you're talking about. I do, and I didn't start being affected until maybe about 6 months ago. And it's only because I can tell they're ramping up the spring here, and we're in I think, a particularly hard-hit area here in actually it's more the southern tier of New York State across the Finger Lakes, and I think there's a tremendous amount of spraying going on because they want to prevent heat energy from the sun hitting the lakes, because you can understand that water holds a tremendous amount of heat energy, of course, and especially with a winter like this, it hasn't really been all that cold, so I think they go out of their way to dump additional chemicals in order to cloud it up so that the lakes stay colder than maybe obviously they would have if they had sun heating them up. So anyway, I just want to throw that out. Can I make a couple quick points and ask you a question?
Yeah, please do, Dan. Please.
By all means, you can chime in, Kim. Russ, you were talking very early on about the people. I forget the guy's name, but the guys who have taken over for Sagan, and how there's a lot of disinformation and that kind of thing. And they're really in any realm that you can look at in our lives right now, the lies are so rampant that it's hard to believe that the people who perpetuate the lies would even think they could get away with this stuff, which is a very interesting concept in and of itself. But anyway, a point that I want to make about that is that I've come to realize that we've developed a very dangerous precedent in my mind when we have so many people in our country, the world, whatever, and I'll talk about the U.S. for just for the sake of argument, but we have all these people around us, so many people around us who don't believe in chemtrails. They don't believe in that Obama can do anything wrong, or Hillary is a saint, or whatever. These people they believe anything that they hear, And rather than listen to what's being said around them about these people and say, well, wait a minute, I should question Hillary, I should question Obama, I should question this guy, him, her, whatever. We don't tend to have people who do that. We do that, but only because we seem to be plugged in a different way into this life. But I just really want to make that point. It's just a very, very dangerous precedent, and there's so many aspects of life that bring this about. And you can understand certain people not wanting to question and whatever, but to not look at this life and say, well, wait a minute, why is Fukushima still an issue? I was told it wasn't an issue. And if you don't set that precedent where you look at things and say, well, history repeats itself, and on and on, we're not going to get to that point where people really are going to start saying, hey, I need to start questioning this whole thing. That's a very dangerous place to be. And it sucks, for lack of a better word, to observe this. And I just want to make that point because, again, there are other precedents that I'm seeing, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. But just, again, to recognize that people don't tend to question first. They just accept that fluoride's good for us, or these pharmaceutical drugs that we see on these commercials are good for us, that all these people out there in the FDA, the CDC, the government, regardless of what the branch is, that this is good. They believe in us. They love us. This is all good. That's a very, very dangerous place for us all to be in. So anyway, we'll see how that plays out. Now, you can comment on that by all means. But you also brought up Project Bluebeam, and I want to ask you a question about this. I read recently, and anybody please chime in if you've heard about the same thing, but I came across an article, and I have to go back and find it again. I'm sure I'll be able to find it. But there was talk, and it was a very technical article. They were talking about how strontium, of all things, is I don't know if I'd use the word requirement, but I think I'd come close to saying requirement. I believe the person was talking about how strontium is needed in order for holograms to work. And, of course, you were talking about Bluebeam, which is going to have to be a holographic type of thing. Have you heard anything about strontium being necessary for hologram projection? Have you heard anything like that, either one of you, or anybody else out there?
I haven't looked into strontium specifically. What I've spent more of my time looking at was patents that mention barium niobate. The thing that's fascinating to me is when you see these halos around the sun, they're the same. If you look very carefully and you watch TV shows or commercials, you can see that all of the lights have a fuzziness around them. In the TV cameras are picking up, video cameras are picking up the light that's being reflected off of the particulates. What's really interesting is if you get a really good shot where somebody shines a bright light into a camera, you will see a halo. And I have a collection of these pictures, actually. Some of them I posted and some of them I have not posted yet, that indicate to me, and I'm not a physicist, but based on my preliminary look at it, and I'd love to get some physicists and people who are in optics or other things involved that can help us with this. We really need some highly skilled people to help us. We've got some, but we don't all have access to them. But it indicates to me, because of the uniformity of the halos that I see, that the particulates are uniformly shaped. They are very uniform, which, of course, is an indication of artificiality. They're artificial particulates. So when we see these halos around the sun, I invite people to look at night, to look at street lights when there's like one nice sharp light, not when there's like several clustered together, but when there's one by itself. Look at it on a clear night and see that orangish, yellowish halo around it. And watch television shows, or when you watch your television shows, watch the lights. And look at the fuzziness around the lights, and especially look, once in a while you will see these halo artifacts that we've never seen before that indicate a real consistent uniformity to the shape of the particulates. The first time I started seeing these halos around streetlights was right after they started spraying us in Jamestown, New York in 2005. And it was surreal to me because you would go out to the shopping center at night, you know, to go buy groceries, and I often went after dark. And it looked like there were these yellowish orange spheres hovering around the streetlights. They actually have an appearance. When you look carefully, they look almost three-dimensional. And I was shocked that people weren't all standing around looking, saying, what is that? I've never seen that before. But people, just like they don't notice chemtrails, don't notice these artifacts. So I would say, you know, I haven't studied strontium's relationship to and the use of it in holograms. Barium niobate is something I've seen in patents. There's something special about barium and its ability to be shaped that make it able, especially suited for that kind of a thing. But I don't know. I don't know about strontium. It's just not something I've studied in this context.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I live in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm out in the woods. We have no street lights around here for miles. And you talk about pitch black. It's amazing to go outside here and as quiet as it is and just as dark as it can be, and the stars, whatever, on clear nights. And I can I could turn my floodlights on at above my garage and stand on the side of the house just obscured from the fog lights themselves. And I see particulates falling from the air, and at times it looks like it's raining. So I know what you're talking about. It's a different. It's not the halo around the light per se, but it's the projection of the light going down the driveway, and seeing the absolute massive amounts of particulate in the air. And if you happen to look at that in the light at night, you can see that. But during the day, of course, we're walking around, and it can look like it's a perfectly clear day. But we know full well that we're just inundated with this stuff 100% of the time. But anyway, an interesting thing, and I'd like to pick your brain on this, and Kim, by all means, please chime in. You and I talked about this last week.
Yes.
The idea of, Russ, the halo around the sun, and I think in terms of, I've been starting to have quite an interest in blue beam. I've read quite a bit about it through the years, but I'm getting very keenly interested in certain aspects of what blue beam would have to entail. And if you think about it, if there's going to be a god or whatever is going to be projected in the sky, if it's even going to be in the sky, let's hypothetically say that this is going to be a being, a face or a body or whatever that's going to be talking to us or whatever. Let's just hypothetically say it's going to be that projection that we're looking at. It seems to me the only way that this could possibly be pulled off is if this being is projected everywhere on the planet at the same time. There's no way you could have it over the United States, but not over China yet, until the Earth turns around. I mean, people are going to flip out. They're going to go underground. It would
right.
be, I think, anyway, a certain purpose of what they would want to have blue beam be. They want this to be everybody at the same time witnessing the same thing in a different language or however they're going to do this whole thing. That I don't understand. But I've come across a concept. I just want to throw this out and just get your thoughts on it. And by all means, again, anybody else who's dialed in, you got any ideas on this stuff, by all means, please chime in. But I've come across a thought process of a moving hologram, and an idea dawned on me. You guys probably see this too, but I see many, many trails that start, seemingly, they start very low to the ground, and they go straight up in the air. Straight up. We're not talking angles. You see enough of those, and some are flying horizontally, but these are going perfectly vertically. And I had pictures of this. I have videos of it. We all do, whatever. But I got thinking about an idea, and I don't have the resources to try to figure out how to get help and input on something like this. But let's take Syracuse, New York. I'm in Rochester, south of Rochester. And if I'm south of Rochester on maybe a few days a week, I will see one of these lines start very low to the ground. And this is a ways off, of course. This is, I don't know, 30 miles away or 20, 50 miles away, whatever. But I see very distinctly these white-looking vehicles, whether they're drones or they're holograms themselves or whatever, I don't know. But I do see this one place where this line goes straight up in the air. And again, I've seen this very often. I've filmed it. I've taken pictures. There's no question it's there. But the question that I start asking myself, is that real or is that a hologram? Because I start wondering, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent on this, but I'd love to, again, get any of the input of anybody out there. I wonder at times if some of these lines that we're seeing aren't actually being drawn, say, by hologram satellites, if there is such a thing, that maybe lasers are being used by satellites to actually burn white lines into the sky that are burning particulates that have actually been sprayed by real planes. So we have maybe real planes spraying these real particulates, and then either ground-based and or satellite-based lasers could potentially be aiming at certain places and burning lines, making it look like they're chemtrails and that they're planes spraying these lines, whereas maybe they're actually using our sky as an etch-a-sketch for Project Bluebeam, that they're practicing, trying to figure out how to make it work. I don't think they have the technology yet. That's my gut feel, but I don't know. But anyway, here's an experiment I would love to pull off. Love to get your input. I don't know if there's any validity to it or whatever. I think there would be. But hypothetically, Syracuse is where this vehicle, this line, goes straight up from. Now I'm looking at Syracuse. Let's say Syracuse is due east from me, 50 miles. What I wonder sometimes, and by all means tell me if you think I'm nuts by coming up with this idea, but let's say somebody is perfectly 50 miles east, say Albany or whatever, from Syracuse. If I see that line going up, where it seems it would be Syracuse, going straight up in the air, would the person in Albany also see that line facing toward me, facing west, which is where Syracuse would be to them, or would it also be 50 miles east of them? Do you understand where I'm coming from by saying it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Does that
are...
make sense? So in other words,
yeah.
that and I don't know enough about it, and I've actually thought about contacting Clifford Carnicom. I haven't talked with him in a while, but he's done mathematics and physics and those kinds of calculations to probably be able to have some kind of an input on that. But it seems like that would be a way of their being able to project whatever this blue beam thing is going to be. It would have to be everybody maybe looking in the same direction and seeing the same thing. This thing can't just exist in one place. Because, again, wars might break out in other countries or militaries might scramble or whatever, and maybe that wouldn't be problematic for the people who plan on doing this blue beam thing in the first place. But it seems to me that you can't have it in one place only and have the need for the Earth to turn for the rest of the planet to see it. Because if it's north, the people at South Pole won't see it. So again, it seems like there has to be this really weird physics thing where it's something that exists exactly 50 miles east of every single person on the planet. And anyway, just throw your thoughts out if you don't think it makes any sense. You can tell me that too. But I'm really getting inquisitive about this kind of a concept, and I don't know a whole lot about physics or chemistry or mathematics to really be able to define something that would be that incredible. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I tend to think that I don't know how developed the technology is yet, and so I've seen some of the pictures of some of the lines that look like they're going straight up. In fact, I've seen them myself, where you look off into the horizon, and it looks like a jet is like going straight up into the air, and you're like, wow, that looks weird. I don't know if that's an optical illusion from the angle I'm standing or what's going on there. But bottom line is it's interesting. I don't know the answers. I guess we'll just have to see how they project, what they choose to let who see in one place or another. I think that for those who are aware of what's going on, and more people become aware, which is good, I think that they're going to have their work cut out for them, because I think that you're going to see artifacts, just like today. Like if you're looking at the live stream right now, for those who are watching the live stream, I'm showing my collection of pictures of halos from television shows, and just these are things that should not exist and haven't classically existed, but yet you're seeing these halos around these lights. So, well, to answer your question, I really don't know. I don't know what the answer is and what they're going to do, whether they have the technology to do that, and whether it's going to all be synchronized globally or not. In the patent, I seem to remember it was a while ago, I was looking at the barium niobate patent, and it had something to do with like perfectly spherical or hexagonal spheres that would have interesting reflective properties, so that they could do the 3D projection. But I don't know. I really don't know the answer.
That's interesting. It's say again, it's just a concept to say a rainbow. Short of being in a rainforest or something where you're up on a mountain and the rainbow's below you or something, and you can actually approach it and have it at least at a point seem to get closer to you. But that would be an exception to the rule of what I'm talking about. You think about a rainbow. It seems when you see a rainbow out a ways away from you, it seems no matter how far, how fast you try to catch up to it, you never get any closer to it. And that's sort of the idea that I'm working with. If I drive toward that line going straight up in the air, am I eventually going to see this white thing straight above me if I get right under it, or is it going to keep staying 50 miles away from me? That's sort of this concept I'm working on, and I don't even know where to go with it, because it's either it's going to have to be something like that, some kind of a technology, alien technology, if there is such a thing, or it's going to have to be in our minds. It's going to have to be projected into our minds and not actually be a hologram even. It might not even be something that is a literally visual thing. It may be projected in our minds, a mind control kind of thing. Anyway, I'm fascinated with the concept of it, and thought about, I have a buddy of mine who wants to do a spoof on Project Bluebeam, where maybe some young people or whatever, kids are driving down the road on a nice sunny day or whatever, and they look down the road a mile or so, and they see all these cars stopping in the middle of the highway, and they're filming with their cell phones, and they're driving up saying, what the heck's going on here? And they all get out, and all of a sudden there's this face in the sky, whatever, and there are angels flying around or whatever the hell it's going to be. And everybody's taking their phones out and dropping to the ground and crying, saying, oh my God, what is this? What is this? And the soundtrack that's made for this thing, this face or whatever it is talking along in this voice, and it ends up skipping like a record. And it's going along, and it's saying something that it will end up skipping at a point and saying something that I don't know if I should say this on your show, but it might say something like skip and say, I am an F-hole, I'm an F-hole, I'm an asshole, I'm an asshole. So you get the idea where I'm coming from. And a buddy of mine says he can do this for about $5,000. And I just thought that would probably go viral. Anyway, I don't know if I'll work on that or not, but I'm fascinated with Blue Beam. So anyway, I'll drop there and go on pause here.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating, and that's the thing, is that the thing that is important that I try to get across to people is that the deception that we are living under today, and that's going to continue to escalate, is so huge and so pervasive that it's going to be, if you don't have the background to withstand it, you're going to be sucked into the lie. And that's part of why I do what I do and take this time, because there's other things I need to be doing right now, but I feel a responsibility because I've done this research. I feel like I need to share it, whether it's 5 people or 100,000 people listening. Whoever chooses to listen, it's my responsibility to share it. You know, just like if you look at the live stream right now, I'm continuing to share picture after picture of these halos that are from popular TV shows around lights that demonstrate that there are particulates in the air between the light source and the person. Like in this picture, if you're watching the stream right now, you'll see that this light, the light source is behind this woman's shoulder, but yet the reflection or the refraction that's happening in the particulates is in front of her shoulder. And what that is that's proof that there are reflective or refractive particles between this woman and the lens of the camera. And it's just blatant, and it's shocking to me that people don't notice all of these weird artifacts that are just all over the place. But yeah, Dan, you bring up some really interesting concepts, and I wish I knew the answers, but what I do know is the deception is going to be very strong, very well done, and or maybe not quite as well done, because we've been, but yet very effective, because we've all been surprised at how blatant chemtrails are, and yet the majority of the population just hasn't caught on yet.
Oh, absolutely. And you think about that, Russ. There are going to be people who are going to kill other people when this happens. If Blue Beam happens, they're going to kill themselves. I mean, absolutely, you're hitting the nail on the head. People are not going to be prepared, which is why I would actually try to invest the money into doing something like a Project Blue Beam spoof, and put it on YouTube, and hope that it would go viral, because at least that way you would be able to spread at least a certain element of information about Blue Beam. I mean, we're talking about chemtrails. You start talking about Blue Beam, and people, their eyes further glaze over. There's so much of this stuff. And I think you're 100% correct. If and when the Blue Beam thing happens, this is going to be devastatingly accurate and incredible, and it's going to be probably hard for us not to believe it's real at first. We're going to look at it and say, oh my gosh, what is that? And then we'll stop and say, wait, everybody, this is not real. This is not real. But it's going to be amazing at the effects that it would have on people if it ever does actually happen.
Yeah, there have been things on YouTube that have gone viral that have been crosses in the sky and different artifacts, and it makes me wonder if these aren't, preliminary tests, little, because they are testers. I mean, the people who do this are very thorough, and they do test their technology, and so it just makes me wonder. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I just don't want people to get caught up in the lie. And if people don't understand the passion of the people who are formulating these lies, if you don't understand their passion and that they're trying to fool the whole world into believing Lucifer is God, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're doing this. They believe this stuff. They really believe the stuff that they practice, and they believe they're going to win the battle. And so they're doing it with all their passion, all their money, all their might, and it's hard for a public that can barely be passionate about their own lives to think that people like this are going to be passionate about something so crazy sounding. Yet they are.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can see what they do in the world today. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just going to hang on mute here, and you guys can keep chatting, or I'll chime in if you want, or whatever. But I appreciate chatting with you guys, and great talking to you guys again.
Well, it's always great to talk to you. You've always been a great, educated, insightful voice, and you've been,
Amen.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dan, for everything that you do, and it's always great to hear from you.
good to talk with you guys again.
I want to, if anybody else wants to join us in our conversation, we'll probably have to shut down here in just a minute, but if anybody else wants to speak up for a minute, in the meantime, please just speak up and let us know you want to talk. If not, that's fine. Don't worry. You don't have to if you don't want to. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the live stream, I'm showing picture after picture of these bizarre halos that appear in movies and television shows that are just so blatant in front of our face and so strange that it's hard. I mean, here's a great one. Look at the halo of this green light that's shining into the camera. It's just incredible. And you see this in every show today. And this became more and more common as time went on, and just is now everywhere. You can't see, and you have many commercials have these artifacts in them as well. But it is what it is, I guess. But if anybody else would like to speak up, please. Now's your time, and I'd like to probably give us about just a couple more minutes. And Kim, anything you want to cover?
Yes, I actually just want to say that there was a lot of very good information discussed tonight, and what I'm pulling as important from this conversation is education, call to action, and, of course, taking care of your own. If your home base is not secured, if you're not healthy, if you're not well, if you don't have the people in your life that you need, or if you're not in a safe place to live, or you can't travel, there's all these things that can interfere, and, things could potentially get very bad very quick, and it's going to take prepared people, like Dan was saying. When this stuff starts getting really wacky, I think you guys all agree, when this stuff starts getting really wacky, it's going to be hard even for the trained mind to realize this is the falsification. This is what I like to call the bullshit before the real stuff hits the fan. So I feel that we've got to continue our activism. Some of us are better at field activism. Some are good at collecting data. Some are good at education. Everyone's got something that they can contribute. But ultimately, just know that you're not alone. We're here for you. I'm here for you. You're here for me. Try to be safe. Keep those in your life that absolutely love you and adore you, no matter where they are. And hopefully you have someone that you love and you can care about and adore. Whether it's a friend, it's a relative, it could be anybody. Just know that when things get really crazy, please have a place to go that you feel comfortable and safe. Or when things feel crazy and when things start getting worse and it becomes difficult or overwhelming, have somebody that you can talk to, call, chat, email, whatever it is that you can do. Find a person that you can reach out to and just say, hey, wow, man, this world is getting crazy, and it's bothering me, or this is what you might want to work on, or whatever it is. I just feel like we can do our activism, our education, our research, and dive in deep if we want to. But I still feel that ultimately we need to have kind of a home base, people we can chat with privately or however. Just kind of have your anchors in place, because things are about to get pretty real. And some of my friends, they're about to get real. But I've got other friends that things are already real. So, they're kind of at that point. Things are real now. They're real right now. They're very real right now. But, keep your family close, make amends, love who you can, forgive people, have patience, understanding. Know that the next day and the days ahead will be difficult, but you can handle it. You can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Life, this is the thing that always gets me, is life could be great. This is what always gets me, is life could be good. we could be happy, we could be secure, the world problems could easily be solved, but everybody would have to stand up together and work. We don't have to agree on everything, but we agree on the basics that people have a right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, not to be poisoned, not to have these crazy poisons dropped on us and all of these horrible things done. I mean, we can all agree on enough that life doesn't have to be this way. And that's what I've always...
Your basics.
Mm-hmm.
Your basics.
Exactly.
For survival. Food, clean air, clean water, safe place to live, caring people.
And the understanding that people, no matter how powerful, they have no right to assault you. They don't have that right. They are violating divine law, doing what they're doing, and they will be held accountable for it. But it doesn't have to be this way right now. If people were willing to stand up right now and to do the right thing and to care about each other enough that we protect each other, we stand together, it doesn't have to be this way. But it is this way because everybody's divided, everybody's looking out for their own well-being rather than caring about each other, and that is being used to as leverage against us. And for those who are looking at the live stream, I'm just sharing dozens of pictures with you. I mean, it goes on and on, dozens of pictures of these halos and these artifacts that you can see in these very successful mainstream shows. I mean, some of them are just overwhelming. Some of them are subtle, but all of them indicate that there are particulates in the air that shouldn't be there. I mean, look at this. It's just astonishing. It's right in your face, and any physicist should look at that. And I know what the liars will say is they say, "Oh, that's just an artifact from the camera." No, it's not an artifact from the camera. It's cameras today are more accurate, precise, higher resolution than they've ever been before. There should be no artifacts, virtually any artifacts from anything. These are clearly reflections from particulates in the air. There's just no question, and they're right in front of us. Here they are, picture after picture. These are things you can see right in broad daylight. Even in this picture, you can see, in this one, you can see the halos from the headlight. Look at this. This is one of those halos like you see around the sun, right here, and that are appearing around headlights in broad daylight, and because of the shape. I mean, you expect if you're kind of in a rainy condition or damp that you're going to see a little bit of reflection from the humidity, from the water in the air, but you're not going to get these perfectly shaped artifacts like you see here. Look at the artifacts around these candles. That is, I see that with my eyes. You know, you can see that with your eyes if you look carefully at pin source or point source light. But anyway, I could go on and on. I've got just collections of these pictures. In fact, actually, I've shown most of them if anybody's been watching the live stream here. All right, well, I think we better wrap it up. I really appreciate your help, Kim. I know we were going to kind of split the time, and of course, as usual, I got carried away and just kept, getting into more and more subjects. But again, I do it from my own passion. You know, I'm sitting here like I told...
Yeah, you've got the education, you know. For listeners, you've got the education. It's,
well, the thing,
they are at a whole different level.
Well, there's so much, you can spend your life learning, and I've tried to learn enough about enough different subjects so I can put pieces together. It's because it's not about, you can spend your whole life learning about the occult, but if you don't learn about the Bible, you'll never see the other perspective. You'll just think that, oh, I've got it all figured out, and I know what's what, and I know what we need to do. And especially if you're living in today's world when people are slandering the truth so badly. I see it all the time. I mean, they're just lying. There's so many lies. And I don't want people to fall for that, But people have to be willing to put in the time. And again, people become knowledgeable about the things they care about. Here's a massive halo here. People become knowledgeable about things they care about.
At least you're willing to share it.
Oh, I would. If I didn't share what I know, I would feel very guilty. I'm not trying to say I have everything figured out, but I am saying that I have the big picture. And the reason that there's a saying that says, you know that something has become a science when you reach the realm of predictability. And like I said earlier, when Chemtrails started, I wasn't utterly surprised, because Revelation 18:23, I was already familiar with it. And the Bible gives you that edge of predictability, because there are prophecies in there. And I just scratched the surface here when I talk. I would love to get more deeply into it. But the things that are happening today that are outlined in Bible prophecy in great detail and great precision would make anybody's head spin. But the problem is there's no place for people to go to learn this except a few places. And I'd recommend, if people want to learn about very interesting biblical things, they go on YouTube and look up Chuck Missler. He's an excellent teacher. I agree with about 95% of what he teaches. I do disagree on a couple points. But again, you just got to glean the truth, glean the good stuff. And Walter Veith is another incredible teacher. I mean, they're putting pieces together. Tom Horn is another great teacher. And these guys are all putting pieces together that you don't hear from other sources. And so I'm trying to relay some of that information. I'm trying to add to it what I've learned, to give people the big picture and not make people sit through, 4 DVDs to get to the punchline. The punchline is that they're setting up an antichrist that they want to convince the world that Lucifer is God, and that this guy who comes and sets up the socialistic system is going to be their guy, but it's not going to be the guy. It's not going to be it's not going to be good. It's going to be a huge deception. And if people don't care and they're apathetic about truth, they're going to be deceived. And that's why I say, if you're not doing your research, then you are a child of the New World Order. You will be sucked in. If you believe in astral projection, if you believe, I'm not saying these things aren't real. They are real. But the problem is that this is not your path to salvation. This is not the most important subject you face in your life is what happens after this life. There's nothing more important than what happens after this life, because that's where you're going to spend all eternity. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but the bottom line is that if you want to look, there are a lot of parables that Christ told. And he said, the kingdom of heaven is like this. The kingdom of heaven is like this. And one thing that the way that I look, there's lots of different ways I look at life in the world, but one thing that always comes back to me is that this life is like an employer who installed hidden cameras and then went away to see what you would do when you thought he wasn't looking.
Oh, yeah.
So I want people to know that somebody is always watching you. Everything that you do, everything that you think is all going to be remembered. None of it's forgotten. And you don't have to believe that if you don't want to, but this is how I look at the world. The employer has left, and he is watching us remotely, because that's when we reveal our real character. Your real character is revealed by what you do when you think nobody's watching. And that will be our own self-condemnation or our own glorification. We are going to condemn ourselves, or we're going to promote ourselves. That promoting is not the right word, but we're going to either condemn ourselves, or we're going to provide the evidence of our own, the condition of our hearts and our love and our compassion and our caring for other people, the fruits of the Spirit, as the Bible calls it. We're going to provide that evidence by what we do, whether we are doing good things or bad things. I'm not saying you're saved by what you do. Salvation, biblical salvation, is by faith alone, not by works. But yet, you can see the evidence of who you are and where your heart is at and what you believe by what you do. That's why the saying says, you will know a tree by its fruit. If you want to know yourself, look at what you do. Look at the fruit that you produce. That's how you know what you do. And this is what I will say, and I'll sum up tonight by saying this, is that my walk as a Christian, and I didn't become a Christian because I wanted to be part of a group. I was reluctant and resistant, but I had a passion for truth, and I had the attitude that I wanted to know truth regardless of how I feel about it. I realized at a young age that my emotions are irrelevant to truth. Truth I have to conform myself to truth. But I'll leave it with this, is that that for me, my Christian walk is that I keep discovering my own selfishness. I kept discovering, as I grew up and looked at myself, I kept looking at myself saying, wow, that was selfish. Wow, that was selfish too. Wow, there was no love in that. There was no compassion. There was no selflessness. There was like always something for me that I was doing. And then I started saying, wow, this is hard. It's hard to look at yourself. It's hard. But if you're willing to do it, then you can start learning how to be selfless. You can start learning that one of the greatest signs of love is when you make a sacrifice. Do something for someone else that has absolutely no benefit to you whatsoever. You know, you're on pretty safe ground if you operate that way in terms of being a loving person. You know, don't look for how it's going to benefit you. Spend time every week doing something for other people that has absolutely no benefit for you. And you're not going to gain salvation by doing that, but it will be an exercise in becoming a better person, becoming a more fruitful person. And if you accomplish that, if you're able to actually accomplish that in your life and become a better and better person, you're beginning to bear fruit. And I know there's a parable in the scripture that talks about the kingdom of heaven is like a barn. I'm going to very simplify this a little bit, but it's kind of like a farmer who takes all of his all of the wheat and puts it in the barn, and takes all the weeds and the garbage and burns it. And that's what it is that we have to each decide, are we going to act like garbage, or are we going to act like wheat? And this is something that, and I'll say one more thing it's amazing how many people don't realize this about God, but one of the fundamental questions of life, why are we here? What is the point of life? Why are we here? What is your life for? And the answer, God gave it very directly. There's no holds barred. God gives you truth. Hard, easy, loving, soft, whatever. However it hits you, he gives it to you. He gives you straight truth. And sometimes when you first hear that truth, it's hard to hear. I get that. It's hard to hear because it doesn't... because you humanize God. That's the biggest problem we have, is we try to turn God into a human, and someone who has pride, and someone who has fear, but he's not like that. He doesn't operate that way. He doesn't operate in those realms. It's a completely different mindset. God doesn't have those problems. He doesn't have pride. He doesn't have selfishness. Here's the answer. You know, why was the universe created? Why are we here? God created all things for his pleasure. That's a direct quote. That's the answer. All things for his pleasure. Okay, so now that we know that, what brings God pleasure? What brings God pleasure are the fruits of the Spirit. Look it up in Corinthians, right? Love, compassion, patience. That is what moves God. When you make those selfless, loving acts towards other people, that is precious. That is powerful. That changes the world. And that moves God. And you will see your life change when you work on transforming yourself. And it's it's something you have to be willing to do, and said, be transformed by the renewing of the Spirit. When you understand what these things mean, and you look at the ugliness that we have in the selfishness, because we all have it. We all have selfishness in our lives. We've all done things wrong. And that's just part of the human condition. But we can work on changing. We're not going to achieve salvation by changing, but that will be evidence, and that will bring pleasure to God. And if we truly accept the gift that he's given us, then we can live a life in peace. And like I said earlier in this talk tonight, that I've had to make peace with death myself, because even today I had an episode that if it got any worse, I would have been in an ambulance. And this is what I live with. This doesn't happen to me every day, but the spraying today was horrendous, and the inflammation in my lungs kept me almost from breathing. And I foresee a day soon when maybe I'm going to have an inhaler, an emergency inhaler, to get rid of the inflammation, because the stuff they're spraying is killing me. And how do you think I feel? I feel that to be surrounded by people who care so little about me. I mean, I know people care, but they don't get it. This is life and death for me. I almost died in 2011 because of this, you know. this, and how many other people have died. Forget me. I believe there are millions of people who are dead because of chemtrails already. They have, just that night in the hospital in 2011, when they sprayed us really bad on that Tuesday night, when I spent 4 days in the hospital, that second night I was there, and they sprayed so hard, and the hospital went crazy with sick people. People just couldn't function. They couldn't get enough personnel in. That is real suffering. These people needed personal care. They were suffering so bad. And I was suffering, but not like most of these people were suffering. I had already almost had a heart attack, but I was doing better that night. So it's hard for me to convey this, and I don't ever want to sound selfish or self-focused in saying this, but the honest truth is that when you can't breathe, and you know your government is doing this to you, and you know that you've told people around you about this, and those people are doing nothing, it's lonely. It's really lonely, you know. And I'm not saying I believe in God to make my loneliness go away. I don't want to believe something that's not true. It has nothing to do with that. It's not an emotional thing at the core. Yes.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan here again. I'll tell you what, you hit that's an incredibly startling mindset, really, to recognize. I've had my own struggles. I won't get into that. I've had a lot of struggles, horrifying things that I've been through, and I know, so to an extent I know what you're saying. I haven't had what happened to me, what happened to you, but there is that moment, like you just said. That's an incredible point where you might be affected and have something going on, and yet the average person or whoever, we don't even need to call them average people, but luckier people, let's say, more fortunate people who aren't having things happen, don't know what's going on. And you're right. And we look at them. You can't help but to look at them and say, I tried to tell you this stuff was going on, because eventually it's going to happen probably to all of us.
Yeah.
So anyway, that I think that was just an amazing point. That was awesome.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you as always, Dan. You know, and the thing, and it's like I said, you know, the thing is, and I'm being vulnerable. You know, it was very hard for me when I was younger. I had some pride inside, and I was afraid of being vulnerable. And this whole thing of coming out on radio and putting your stuff on YouTube, I mean, I would never do this. This is not me. I'm a private person, and I would rather, you know, I want to do good things for people, but I don't want to be in the limelight. You know, I don't naturally like that. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, I listen to myself say all this stuff about my heart attack and how much I'm suffering, and you have to make peace with death and your relationship with God and all of this personal stuff in the public view. And I make myself do this, you know, because I know there are other people who are going to hear this and they're going to relate to it and they're going to understand. And they're going to also be inspired by the vulnerability that I've finally, after a long, and it's hard, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but it's a vulnerability when you sit here and you just talk about your frailties and your health problems and your emotional problems and your struggles. And it can be very humiliating. But the big thing is what I just said about, it's kind of like, what I feel like a lot of times is I'm the guy on the stairs of the county building dying, and everybody is walking past me to go to work or to go to lunch. And it doesn't matter. This is where you realize the selfishness in people. And I don't mean to, you know, it's just what we live with. And you learn that God is just. You know, God sees this. He knows the selfishness of people and the self-focus that we have. It's like, are you one of those people who help that person who's laying in the stairs, who's crying out for help? Or do you walk by because you are in a hurry and you got to make lunch and you got to be back and you got to punch the time card, and it's tough because the world makes it hard. But at the same time, when do we make that sacrifice? And so I feel like I'm that person today. I mean, even right now, the air is bad enough right now where I've got constant lung pain, and I sleep like this, and I have waves of sweat, and I'm chelating, I'm doing, you know, all this stuff. And if I didn't know what I knew, I would be dead a long time ago. I would have been dead in 1998 if I didn't give myself a massive education on chelation and herbs and health, and I didn't start really researching this. This is what's kept me alive. But the thing that really hurts is that people around you look at you and they feel bad for you and they let you die? Where is the I mean, even if people were acting selfishly, they'd say, wow, I don't want to happen to me what happened to you. It's like you can hardly get people to even act selfishly, much less selflessly. It's just they don't want to act. And I'm not saying this of everybody. There's a wonderful group of active people who are doing great things. I don't ever want to leave those out. I love those people, and they're great, wonderful. They're very special people. But so much of the population just has this attitude that I don't want to do anything I don't have to do. Go ahead.
Well, I just find that to be a pretty amazing viewpoint. That's pretty awesome. I mean, I guess I wonder if the people who might walk past you wouldn't even have thought in their mind about who you were, what you were going through, or whether they felt sorry for you or whatever. Maybe that's pretty cynical or pessimistic, you know what I mean? But I wonder at times. I mean, it's so in other words, really, it comes down to your struggle is your struggle, no different than my struggle has been mine. I find myself so thankfully at a point where I'm healthy for the first time in 30 years of my life. And yet I'm starting to be affected by chemtrails and that kind of thing. So I'm not quite in the same boat where you are, but I find myself, I feel isolated in it's that struggle that you're given and I'm given. We're all given these things, and we have to get through those and do the best that we can, and that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and you know, and the other side of it too is that, and I have to look at this because I try to be very objective about myself, is that if I didn't suffer at all from chemtrails and I didn't smell them and I didn't taste them, I ask myself, would you be as actively involved as you are? Would you?
Bingo.
Or would you just be one of those people
Bingo.
that walks by and doesn't
Bingo.
do anything?
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So I have to look at myself and ask myself that question as well, you know?
Well, of course, we all do. But it's I don't know, I guess my belief system is, who said it? Who was it who said, what was the expression? Who was it? Nietzsche said, what did he say about, something about, that does not kill me, makes me stronger, something like that, right?
Yes.
Nietzsche? Well, and that kind of thing, right? And you look at it, no matter what we do, we have this really weird struggle we're all in right now, and we shouldn't be in it. And that's the part that really sucks, and that's the part that I agree with you. A lot of people don't have certain things that they go through. Not that they need to or should or whatever, but some people just seem, they can smoke, some people smoke cigarettes for 140 years and then they die. 140 years or 120 years or whatever. That's an exaggeration. But it's amazing how haphazard these things can be. But I'll tell you what, I started to read about the zero population growth plans of the UN and these organizations and the world bodies and whatever. Anyway, I don't know if you want to hold on and on the call here and talk about this. We can do it next week or whatever. But I'd love to get your input on your thoughts about how the killing off fits into that agenda. And I would think that it would be a pretty affirmative thing. But I've had a very close family member died a few months ago of cancer. I've got two other very close family members who are both have cancer. I have a guy at work I'm talking to. He's got cancer in his life. He just lost his dad from brain cancer. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on right now, and it is. It's just incredibly astounding to have those people walking up and down the steps. But that's not. We can't. I'm not worrying about that. I just look at that and think, okay, screw them. I don't know them. They can't help me. I can't help them. I need to figure this out, right? So that's where we are. And you know what? That's very unnatural relative to the real systems of the Earth. I mean, we're the RF, everything that's going on around us from, say, how many, what would you figure, 1 million RF cell phone towers around the world? I mean, that affects frequencies of vibrations of natural life and stuff. So, yeah, we're all in this situation together, and
well, yeah.
hopefully we'll get more collective, and it is happening. And thankfully, thank you for the show tonight, by the way. And thanks, Kim. Always love chatting with you, and everybody else who's here. I've enjoyed being here. I'm glad to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, me too, Dan. I always appreciate you being here. It's great to hear from you. You've been talking with us for so long. It's been years. It's great.
Yep.
But you know,
Thank God. Thank God.
The thing you mentioned about the steps, I mean, I'm kind of an idealist, and I'm always the guy saying, you know how good it could be if we would just. And I don't know why I'm like that, but I love being a team player. And I think, you know, if we could just get 20 people together and we could make phone calls to local officials, and then we'll start befriending them, and we'll get them to care about us, and we'll tell our story, and we can, you know, we could do incredible things if we could coordinate our efforts. And what I've learned over again is what I actually learned years ago, is that when I was, I made a product years ago called the Tanco Voice Decoder, and I put ads in the back of magazines. And this is a little device, a little box, a few inches by a few inches. It's a circuit that I developed, a simple circuit that actually removes voice from music. And it doesn't do it 100% on all songs. It works varying degrees on different songs. But it worked pretty well, you know, and I sold these for a few years. And the thing that amazed me, and I did that as an experiment to answer the question, would people actually buy something that I would make? And what I learned from that is there was only one other company that made a device that did this, and they charged like $250 for their device. I charged $79. And I had some success with it and realized that people would buy things that I made. But the thing that I learned, one of the things I really took away from that experience was that it's amazing how few people actually do something. And it's depressing to me, because I don't care about being richer than anyone else or being more this and that. It doesn't matter. What I would love is for people to get together and work together, and what we could achieve and what we could do. And these people you talk about who passed away of cancer, and I'm so sorry to hear this, and I'm in the same boat. I know people, and I want to say, okay, you know, I start acting like this, and I have to rein myself in, because I used to be the guy who would go, oh, okay, look, here's what we do. Let's talk. Let's get together. We need to have a meeting. I've got some things I want to share with you that I know will help. There's some good research that, you know, and even the people who have cancer are like, well, I don't know, you know. And I'm like, what? And it took me years to just understand that reaction. Why would you not, you know, put your heart and your soul into this? What is...
Russ,
but
I got to...
It's like... Go ahead, yeah.
I got to tell you, you just made me laugh. I just laughed hysterically. I was on mute. But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, and I joke with my friends who are close enough to talk about this type of thing. I didn't mean to interrupt you, by all means.
No problem.
I just started laughing, and I had to say something about that, because you're 100% correct. That irony exists, and you have to laugh at that. You can't. We can't look at this and get down from anything that's going on around us. We cannot afford any of that. Which is really cool that you're here, you're doing a show, you got Facebook, everybody's doing all this stuff. There's so much stuff that's going on. Is it going to work? We'll find out. But anyway, the irony of what you were just talking about, how life is so crazy sometimes, made me laugh. I just want to tell you. So.
Well, you know, I found that I had that after time. I mean, for years, I couldn't get that. You know, I was very slow to learn some of these things, because I like most young people, thought the world was like me. Everybody thinks, hey, everybody's like me. And then you grow up and you start realizing not everybody's like you. There are differences. But the thing that I learned eventually is I have to rein myself in. And now I get to the point where, I spend so much time vetting people for this 61,000 member group, and I have to manage people and have to kind of, you have to manage whether these people are fighting and these people are doing good, and try to make everybody happy and be this. And it's just, it's just a whole different paradigm than where I want to be. I want those people to call me who feel like, hey, we can do something. Let's get together. The amazing things we get accomplished together. And I know it's hard. We got responsibilities in life, but look, we can do something. We can make a difference. But anyway, I was talking about when I talk to people who have cancer, know people have cancer, and I got all excited. I felt like I cared more than they did. And I eventually got to a point where I realized I really have to rein myself in, and you have to be real gentle and say, well, I have some information that I would love to share with you if there's anything I can do. And inside I'm screaming, I'm like, we got to do this for you, or your sister, your brother, whoever, we got to do this for you. We can do this. But outside I have to just be gentle and calm and rein myself in, and otherwise it can be scary or overwhelming to people when you care so much, or you have that passion and you just assume that they're going to have that too. So I don't know. It took me a long time to adjust to that. And so now that I'm doing this stuff I'm doing and doing the activism and have been involved with so many people, you learn a lot because you meet such diverse people. You've got the people who are really enthusiastic and idealistic, and the people who are working, the people who never quit, go. And then you've got the people who don't want to do anything, and they've always got a reason not to do anything. And again, I don't want to judge these people, but at the same time, you have all these different diverse people, and you see a lot of people who are very productive and a lot of people who aren't. And it becomes disheartening. And then I get to the point where I have all these health problems, where I've got this battle, and I just want people, I want people to rally around and say, look, we can fix this battle by getting chemtrails to stop. If we coordinate with enough people working together.
Russ, look at what you've achieved. I mean, look at your Facebook. I mean, I'm in awe of that. I dropped off Facebook a while back. I had a group myself for a while, and I ran it for a bit, and it was awesome. And then I forgot. I don't even know how many people I had. It was relatively small. But anyway, no matter how we look at anybody else around us, it doesn't freaking matter what they're doing. We do what we do, and we find people around us who do what they do because they're enjoying watching us with passion about what we do because of what we do. I mean, that's where you are. I'm not quite there. Kim can chime in, whatever, but you've done a tremendous amount, Russ, and that's an awesome contribution, I think, as far as the grand scheme of things. I mean, you have a Facebook page. You've got people who have joined you. Okay, this isn't just some conglomerate that opened up this Facebook page. This was you and what you built and the management you had with you, your team members, your administrators, and you've done a tremendous amount, Russ.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I guess sort of what I'm asking is considering you have input on this. I look at something like what you've been through, and I look at what you've built. I mean, you've done a tremendous amount in a time frame where you're not feeling well. You're not 100%, but you pulled off what you did. I think that's admirable. That's all I guess I'm saying to you. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's true for all of us, and all I can say is that this has been a huge learning experience, and I've met some of the best people I've ever known, people who really care about other people. I mean, those to me are the best people. People who care about other people are amazing people. To have that passion is inspiring and uplifting to me. But it's been a very diverse ride, because it's been so full of disappointments, and other times it's been so full of inspiration from people that you meet that you just, I mean, so many people that I work with I've never met face to face, but yet I've had such incredible conversations and been inspired and had that feeling of contact, in the conversations we've had and the things we've wanted to do for the world and try to make things better for people. Excuse me. And it's been amazing, But I'll tell you, what makes me sad is that there's so many people are sick and suffering today. There's not a family that doesn't have somebody sick and suffering that I know of. And people, it's kind of like they're battling, trying to find the solution for cancer, for aneurysms, for strokes, for heart attacks. They're trying to look, and media is trying to direct their attention to, oh, your homocysteine is too high, or your glutathione is too low, or you're not eating the right foods. And it's like, for God's sakes, let's get the elephant out of the room. Let us, I bet if we stopped all spraying today that we would see 80% of this stuff go away. It would change the world dramatically. Or maybe at least 50%. It would be huge. Let's solve the root problem, because until we solve the root problem, we are struggling with trying to, keep the water out of our boat that has a huge hole in the bottom. We're just bailing water, Let's plug the hole, and then we can really do something. But that's what discourages me, really, that I have to fight with every day, is that, out of our 61,000 people, and I realize many of them were added by other people, I get it, but it's like, this is the largest crime against humanity in human history. It's visible over your head. There's measurable particulates in rainwater all over the United States and Europe. There's evidence all over. There's whistleblowers. There's celebrities who are coming out there. This is absolutely the hugest thing, and yet you will have more people watching The Simpsons, sneak preview than you can dealing with the largest crime.
You know what, Russ? I'll tell you what. I agree to a great extent there, but I think that things are going to get bad enough for the people who are basically, you think about it, they're living the life of Riley. We got a lot of people in this country getting a free ride, and it doesn't mean that they shouldn't have support because they're in a bad position. That is not at all what I would mean about social programs and that kind of thing. But this country has spent tens of trillions of dollars over the course of, say, 70 years on social programs. And you would think, say, whatever the number is, say 30 trillion or something. I do believe, I think I'm quite right, it's above that. But let's use, say, 30 trillion since 1960 when they started to implement social programs. With that much money, can you imagine what they could have done? And yet a report comes out the other day about Chicago being in the worst doldrums they've ever had for blacks in the inner cities and stuff. And I sit back and I'm thinking to myself, what did you do with that money? And so it's a similar thing. I think we all can look at things, and I agree with you. There are frustrations that happen, but I think selectively we've all been able to go out and we chip away, and we just chip away. And we don't know if there's progress enough yet, and we feel like there isn't enough, and that makes us work that much harder. And you're 100% right. The psychopaths, they are just salivating right now. They're in their drawing board rooms, and they're drawing up on boards and all separate little groups and things, study groups, and they're all figuring out, okay, so what do we do about this? We got to get rid of this and kill these people and get rid of these people and go to war here and make money over here and banking and loans and all this stuff. this stuff is passionate to these people, and there are a lot of people involved with it, and they're making an awful lot of money. So how do you stop that? Anyway.
Yeah.
I thought I'd throw that in there. It's Russ again. I'm telling you, Kim, you're wonderful. I don't think I praise you enough, ever. I mean, the administration you do on Russ's page is awesome.
Yeah, Kim is like 5 people.
Conversations, a lot of fun.
She's 5 people rolled into
absolutely.
one. I don't know how she does everything she does. I do not know how she can do it.
She kicks ass. She says, "Okay, all right, I got a new problem. I can deal with it."
It's
You're
true.
right.
It's true. It's true. I just it's like the saying, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person to do it. Kim's that person. You want to get something done? Yes, Kim.
Yep.
She's already got her plate 5 times fuller than it should be, but she'll get it done anyway.
You know.
It's amazing. And that's kind of what frustrates me once in a while when you get these people in the Facebook group who are like, "Oh, the admin should be doing this," and admin. You have no idea what the admins do. You don't know how many balls the admins are juggling. It's just.
You have no idea. I wake up to my Saturday morning coffee, and there's already 12 posts. 8 of them are pornography, and others are just, And I just want to get my coffee, throw an egg in the skillet, let my dogs out, and they're all like blah 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 blah. And I just I'm like, guys, I don't want to be personal here, but I just poured my first coffee. My dog has to go to the bathroom. Please behave yourselves. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I literally tell them that. They're like, uh-oh.
Well, you have done so much, and you've been so faithful the whole time, and so that's why I thank you. And I'm not. I don't want to neglect the other administrators who also work. I mean, I have more contact with you, Kim, than the other administrators, but. And I'd like to remedy that. Of course, I'm juggling so many balls. I was supposed to get together with you last week to get some work done over the computers, and I mean it's Monday now, and we still haven't done over here because I've been,
Have you guys met each other?
Yeah, I met Kim once.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah, definitely.
Was it once? I wasn't down there more than once. Was I, Kim?
No, I just happened to catch you. And the one time you were traveling to southern New England, I caught you in the travel.
Yep. I was able to stop by and see her for about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Good.
Well, I tell you what.
Love to meet both of you sometime.
Well, it's
soon.
Yeah.
Yes. We got some brainstorming going on Thursdays. We got some pretty creative things that we're talking about, and
I'm so sorry. I had it on my list
to live stream.
Yes, I had that on my list to mention. I'm so sorry I didn't bring that up. I wanted to bring people's attention to that because Kim, I can't believe I didn't mention it, but Kim is having on this same live stream is going to have a Thursday night brainstorming meeting session for anyone who wants to attend. So please tune into the same live stream. She's going to be masterminding that. So go tell them about it, Kim.
Basically, it's going to be, it's titled End All. No, it's called Call to Action. And then if you just type that in, you'll find it. But the first segment of it is going to be for people that are interested in geoengineering, chemtrails, what can they do, specific steps they can take, whether it's making flyers, promoting events. A lot of the people that I get to talk to are they're handicapped. They can't drive cars. They can't walk well. So they're not really in a position to go out and do protests and stuff. But they can hit the computer. They can promote whatever's going on, locally. So that's basically what we're going to do. For now, it's just doing national. I mean, anyone that wants to join globally, they can join globally. But we're just covering national. We've got Steve in Alaska, and we've got Deborah in Texas, and we've got people in Canada. A lot of different people are doing different events, and they're kind of isolated. So I just want to try to get everybody a chance to bring up their stuff and share photos of whatever they've done or whatever they want to do. And at some point, we're looking at trying to have a national summit in northern New England in May, June, July, August. Some point this summer, we're trying to have a huge gathering of all activists from all causes. Each person, we want to have you guys have your own area to discuss your subject, whether it's my subject is weather, geoengineering. Russ is great for educational on a lot of the why and where it's coming from. It's awesome explanations on what this all means. And then I've got other friends that are interested in animal rights and stuff. So we're hoping to come up with a location for the summer to create a huge event where activists can start doing their own fundraisers and gather for one huge parade. It would be on a Saturday. But I would suggest, to stick with live stream, look for call to action. We're going to try to have the first hour an order of business where we'll talk about literally whatever you've done. Email your photos, email your links, whatever you've got that you want to share during the show. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to. But if you want to share like photos and stuff, you can do that easily without, getting right in there and chatting with people.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad you're doing that, Kim. And that was part of the original idea for this. I originally called this Global Skywatch Radio Monday Night Meet, because that was the idea, was to get people together to do something kind of what you're doing. So I'm really glad you're doing that, Kim. So that is awesome. But I'll tell you what, it's 12:15 here on the eastern coast, and the air is still as bad as it's been all night. My sinuses are burning. My head is thumping. They're hitting us with HARP. I can hear a 70 or 80. It's probably, I don't know what the frequency is. I'd have to get my tone generator out and match it, but it's usually between 72 and 85 hertz. And, of course, that is opening up your blood-brain barrier and increasing what they call cell wall porosity. So they can take a benign amount of toxin in the air, open up your cell walls with the right frequency, and make it deadly. I don't know if that's the reason they're doing it, but I do know that being irradiated with electromotive force all day long is not healthy for people or anything. And that's what they're doing, because boy, do I hear it. But anyway, it's 12:15. Probably we better call it a night. I love when nights go on like this, because it means we had good people having good conversations. So I appreciate you guys being here. I really do. And we also have a good handful of people here who've been on the call console the whole time listening in, and people watching the stream during this whole conversation. So that's kind of cool. I hope everybody got something out of it. But any closing words, you guys?
We did, Russ. Of course we did, Russ.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope so.
And I've got people on Facebook that are letting me know that they're listening in. The actual live stream chat went down right around 9:30, 9:45.
Next week I will set up, I say I will, and I hesitate to make promises because I know how my schedule is, but I will try to have a, like, what is that chat that they have that's real popular on?
Chat and Go. I've already got it set up for you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I've got it posted on your home site.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll have to talk about that. Cool. I was thinking of, that would be great. That way we can forget the live stream chat. And then Seth is helping me with, Seth is a computer expert. He's helping me to get a streaming server set up on our machine. And he's busy right now, but when he gets back to it, I hope that we can stop the live stream issues that we have. Live stream for the first year and a half was, maybe even 2 years, was incredibly robust and reliable, and I was very impressed by it. And I don't know entirely if it's their fault or not. I mean, maybe there's something between them and here that's going bad, or maybe the powers that be are interfering. I don't know what the story is, but the bottom line is for the last I don't know, 6 months or whatever. It's been very unreliable. It's been very frustrating. But we'll work it out. Another one of those things we have to fight to win. All right, guys.
Well, the thing is that some people have a computer and some just use the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody can do both. You know what I mean? So some will just do the phone. They'll just call and they'll listen that way. But they're using their phone to get in. And so they can't, like they don't have a computer to do both. So I think that I absolutely love live stream, even though it's got its little issues. But like if we had, you know, you could have your phone call in like you've got. You could have your live stream and then have that third chat. I think that would just cover everybody, you know, for now.
You're right. You're right. This week I really need to make it a priority to get that chat and go set up in the right place or wherever you've got it or whatever. We'll talk about it in that way. We'll just send everybody there for chatting, and we'll have a good, reliable chat system. And we won't have to rely on the live stream bugs anymore. So that'd be great. All right, well, listen, I'm kind of anxious to probably get going. It's already after 12. I have a million things I still have to do, and I need to knock a few things off tonight. And I am hurting. I need to put my wet mask on. So I probably better run. But any final words you guys want to say?
It's a great show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. We love you, brother.
Hey, love you too. Thank you. I don't even know the gratitude. I mean, I don't even have words. And whoever said thank you for the thank you. Somebody, excuse me. Oh my gosh. No, the air is just pinching my lungs off. It just hurts. But yeah, thank you.
Is that Carmen?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Carmen. All right, that's Carmen.
Hi.
Carmen's
Hi,
great. Carmen's a go-getter.
We love Carmen.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, thank you.
I
was late. I had clients. I'm really sorry.
No, thank you for joining us, and thank you. I saw that you emailed me. I apologize to those who have emailed me. I have 150 emails in my inbox that I'm trying to get to. So just please hang with me, and I'll get there. And I saw Carmen. I believe you emailed me a few weeks ago. So I'm just trying to get caught up. I will be there soon. But if anybody needs something urgent from me, just Facebook message me, because I get to that much sooner than I do my email. My email becomes overwhelming. Okay. So, but anyway, all right.
I just bugged him.
All right. I guess we should call it a night. Thank you, Dan, Carmen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Kim, for everything that you do. You guys are great. It's wonderful to have such camaraderie with people that I've never met. This is a weird world, but it's really cool in this way. So, everybody have a good night.
True.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Great show.
Thank you.
Great show.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking.
Okay.
Pouring ourselves out here and being vulnerable one more time. Next week, we'll get into some more aspects of all kinds of news. We'll catch up with news. We will hopefully get some, anybody have events they want announced, we'll do that. But please tell your friends to go to globalskywatch.com so that we can spread the word. Globalskywatch.com is designed in a way so that new people who come to it can find the very beginning information that they need at the very top of the page. That's kind of the idea. So please don't hesitate to send people there, or whatever site you like best. It doesn't matter to me as long as people learn about this. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We'll be here at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, Monday, March 28th. And Kim will be here. You're going to be here Thursday the 24th, right, Kim?
Yes, we will be.
Okay, Thursday the 24th, Kim will have her session. Is that going to be 9 o'clock Eastern Time as well?
It will be, and we're asking for anyone that wants to upload photos before then to get their stuff out. They have to get hold of me to do that.
Okay. How do you want them to get a hold of you? Any particular way?
On Facebook, we have an email address for awareness trainings. They can sign up for either email, text, or Facebook messages if they've got photos of their actual events that they want to share. or they can actually private message on live stream.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, very good. So don't forget, Thursday the 24th, 2 days from now, technically, because it's Tuesday, Kim will have her 9 o'clock show or meeting on this very same live stream. And then Monday, the following Monday, the 28th, we'll be back here again, and we're going to share everything from current news to chemtrail information to deeper spiritual information about why this is happening and what's going to happen next. So everybody, great pleasure having you with us tonight. Have a good night, and we will see you soon. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Carmen. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.